What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Last Principles. I'm your host, M.A. Now, a few months ago, I got together with Aldo over at the Reclamation podcast and Helen over at Losing My Religion. And we did something called the Anti-Devo, where we had an ex-ICOC version of a devotional. And we had such a good freaking time doing that. And there was such a good response in the comments. We decided to do it again. We're just going to do this seasonally. So this is the fall edition of the not the Reclamation Project. Damn.
Hey, it's all right.
This is the fall edition of the Anti-Devo, featuring the Reclamation Podcast and Losing My Religion. And also we have returning guests, Ron Denson and Trisha Lee. So we basically got everybody I've interviewed so far on the channel here tonight. So we're gonna have a good ass time, basically. How are y'all? How the hell are y'all? Happy Friday. How's everybody doing?
Oh, all good, man. All good. Enjoying this Friday. Hope you guys are too.
Amen.
Oh yeah. Running around like crazy as always for me.
Yeah. Oh, quickly, drink check. What y'all drinking on? I saw some folks swiggling around something. What y'all got?
Oh man. I mean, listen, you can never go wrong with H2O.
Yeah, true.
You can never go wrong. You gotta stay hydrated, friends.
True.
I'm being basic. I'm doing a La Croix and water. So I'm double fisting in my own special way tonight.
Gotcha. Ron, what you got over there?
I don't know. I was checking out your glass earlier.
I got me a little rum drink over here.
Little rum.
Little rum.
Nice. I guess I'm the only one. I don't have a drink. I don't have anything actually.
If we got time, you can go get one.
Yeah.
I know, right? Don't be left out.
Yeah. I shall.
Yeah.
I shall.
I'm not one to say that drinks should be gendered, but I have been accused of being a girly drinker before. So I'm indulging in that. So
what's a girly drink?
So something not hard, basically, like sweet, fruity stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So something donated by the mother-in-law this year.
I mean, that just looks fun. It's skull on it. It's all happy.
Now,
I like it.
It was a little strong, like not strong in alcohol, but just strong in just how it hit my mouth. So I actually have a little bit of lemonade in this. So mom-in-law and my daughter, they made lemonade together. That's a little bonding moment. So I was like, it's maybe a third of that, 2/3 of the drink. So yeah, that's what we got. All right.
You created your own special cocktail.
Right. I mean, it does say cocktail on the bottle. So I figured, hey, I got to mix it with something, right?
Filled with love.
Filled with love.
Exactly.
With love. All right. So to kick us off, there was a comment in the comment section. Yeah, that's what that is. A comment in our last Devo video requesting that we talk about conferences and retreats. What was y'all's experiences in the ICOC with what would it be like a big church conference, congregational service, campus retreat, singles retreat, all those things? How was you guys' experiences with those?
Can I start?
Go ahead, you got it.
I have one. First one came to mind. I'm gonna try to be short and not name names, but you guys are gonna know what I'm talking about. So the year was 2000, right? The year was 2000, and the church was celebrating the completion of the Evangelization Proclamation.
Oh wow!
For those who don't know, that was a decree in 1994 where they said they were going to evangelize a certain amount of places in a certain amount of time by the year 2000. And the celebration was going to be in Washington, D.C. And it was a leadership conference. And back then, leadership conferences were invitation only. So, your boy got invited. I was like, yeah, we made it. Right? So it was a bunch of us from New York who went down, and we just saw nothing but, campus students and people from everywhere. It was a great thing. And the keynote speaker for that Saturday night was none other than the leader of the church. I won't say his name, but we know who he is.
Yeah.
And I had never heard him speak. And everyone was excited, like, yo, we're off to see the wizard. Can't wait to hear this guy speak. So then So there's classes on Fridays, all this other stuff, it's cool. Classes on Saturdays, all this stuff, it's cool. And then Saturday night, he's speaking. He's the keynote speaker. And we're thinking, this is the first time we're going to hear him. This is going to be great. And we're supposed to celebrate the completion of this event, right? This monumental goal that they set. Your man got up and spoke. And one of the first things was, who here has been personal fruitful in the past year? Stand up. Maybe every 10th or 15th person stood up. Not everybody stood up. And I was tight that I didn't stand up. And then he started laying into the crowd.
Oh.
Just like telling us that we're the worst people in the world.
Don't beat your heroes, right?
And don't meet your heroes.
Right.
And what I noticed was in the immediate section that I was in, I don't know how many, but quite a few people started crying.
Wow.
And that permeated around the stadium. Thousands of people there. And then at the end of his thing, everyone just rushed and got in these groups like it was an emergency situation where everyone said, man, we're terrible. We've sinned. We need to have an all-night prayer session. And I was like, and I didn't say it out loud, but on the inside, I was like, yeah, but I'm hungry though. What you mean all-night prayer? Can we have a meeting about this? Can we take a vote? But I didn't say that. And then, so people did that. Everyone went back to their hotel rooms and people had these all-night prayer sessions. And I remember the session that I was in, I don't know, 10, 15 brothers, people crying, people feeling like they're the lowest of the low. And that is, when you say conference, that's the first one that comes to mind. And that's how it went down for me. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
I thought that was a pretty big one.
Yeah. Let's put a pin. Let's put a pin in on all night prayer sessions. I had not thought about that at all until you said that, but I got some thoughts on that. So let's come back to that.
Okay.
Who else?
Well, I just want to say, I think I was in DC that fateful weekend. I believe I forgot, but I guess I'm unspiritual at this point. I don't remember. I forgot all about Kit McKeon because I remember being in DC for the conference. But maybe I wasn't invited to what you were part of because I don't remember Kip. I have to dig into the archives of my mind for that. Maybe I blocked it out because that does sound kind of familiar.
Man, I was about to say we about to get like a different account of the same situation. Like Aldo got John, Helen, you got Matthew. Two different accounts of the same thing, same traumatic experience from different eyes.
On her side, everybody was laughing, having a good old time.
Yeah, was that Aldo? Was that with everyone, or was it just the brothers?
No, everybody. Yeah, brothers and sisters.
Maybe it was another year because the conference that comes to mind for me was also in DC, but it was a singles conference. Okay. So maybe this is something different.
Yeah, this is year 2000. I don't know about yours. Was it the same year?
Around that time, yeah, because this was before the letter came out. No, I don't remember. Yeah, it had to be around 2000, 2001. So I can't share that story, because I don't remember. I'm mixing it up. But the conference I'm thinking of that came to mind was DC, but it was specifically for singles. And I think there were some campus students there too. That was the whole idea. Yeah, I think, but it was the same, the same old thing as always. I mean, you didn't have, who there, because I would have remembered that. That's like, having, the Pope come.
Right.
Jesus shows up, gives a sermon on the mount. Like that's the equivalent, of that individual.
When it comes to, especially when it comes to singles and campus conferences, did they not all seem like, how's the best way to put this? People looking for the one.
Looking for the one?
Yeah. Looking at me. Was that?
Right.
I said not Neo.
Yeah, not like Neo, but looking for like Oh, like you got your eyes open for who your next interest, your next person you want to date. You the loneliness be kicking in. You be like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Did anybody else experience that? Either from yourselves, or did y'all get the vibe from everybody else that was there that's maybe not their main purpose, but one of the bigger purposes for them being there?
Look, it was that's why I went, and my friends went, I mean, we were trying to meet new brothers, hang out, socialize, we were single, we were ready to mingle, and that was the only, really, that was our, I don't know, what you call it? It's our, that was our hot girl, like that was our version of the hot girl city boy
Christian
life.
girl,
it's like my friends and I mean, we would comfort top. We'd be like, okay, so we going where? And we going to this church, and we going over here. Like, we had a good old time, and I mean, that was low key, right? Because high key, we were getting chastised on the front end, like, you got to keep your focus on God, on the mission, on the kingdom, on Jesus. So, looking for that is bad. Like, that's really like, I just remember the whole off focus. Like, you got to keep your focus.
Yeah.
And keep Jesus Lord, and, of everything. So, the focus was, evangelizing the world, the evangelization, the evangelization, I can't even pronounce that, but that proclamation thing I was going to talk about. Like, that was really, what we're supposed to be doing this for. But I mean, no, we was going to socialize and, have fun. I mean, do you remember at those conferences, like the one in DC, it sticks in my mind because people would wild out at these conferences. Like, there was some real, like, people would really get, what they call worldly, at these things. Like, it was a huge deal. I remember in DC, we had this huge, I forgot where it was, but it was it might've been the same place that you were at, Aldo, for the leaders conference, but it was huge, and it had all these sections and floors in the hotel or whatever, and we all got rebuked. Really, I never forget this, because, and this is about 2000, early 2000s, but they, if you guys remember the parties, right? Yeah. So Saturday night, because they had the itinerary for what our social calendar was going to be, and they'd have like a little DJ party, right? And that was where I was getting, I was vibing on. Like, I was like, okay, we get to get some dancing in, have a little fun. But I remember at this conference, that was, there was that was the party, but then there was the after party.
Oh. And
then come to find out the next morning, there was the after party.
Oh, what's that?
I think there was another level after that. Like, it just got, more and more. It's like the after. And then by the time I showed up to church on Sunday, I mean, it was just all hell broke loose. Like, what? Like I was like, what? There was an after party. And he was like, no, sis, it was the after party. Then it really got wild. And wild. Yeah. So
now, how wild did it get?
We talking like what wild we talking about?
Well, see, I never. It was one of those things no one wanted to say.
Oh boy. So
we were always kind of, insinuating, but I knew it was bad because the leader was up there screaming at us.
Screaming?
Yeah, rebuking, from the pulpit. I mean, he going off like, this is inappropriate for God's kingdom. And, what was going on, I mean, Satan is getting us to death. I mean, it was just, he was just going in. I just remember after the first party, there was only a select group that was doing the after party and the after party. Everyone wasn't invited. I was a super disciple, So those of us who were super, spiritual or whatever, we were not invited and told. But found out later, all the quote unquote struggling people, they were the ones that were hooking up. They said, all I remember is that said people were hooking up, the lights were out and, and I remember going to my room for the night after the party, the first one, and you would hear this deep bass beat, like doom, 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 with the different music, the house music and the hip hop and all the kinds of music.
Was it Two Live Crew?
No.
There was no Doodle Brown.
What you hear, like.
Was she at Freaknik? Like, what was this?
Wow.
It was like, it essentially the way from what I heard, what was on the street was, it was kind of like a Freaknik version of ICOC type of thing.
I'm just having trouble like picturing all of this. Like, wow.
Yeah. All I remember is hearing the music thumping, and I remember looking up. I didn't know that was ICOC members. I thought that was someone else in the hotel. It was Saturday night, but I found out later, no, that was, church members.
Oh, right.
And I remember looking up in one of the spaces where they were having it, and it was pitch black, and all you could see is a strobe light, and you just heard the music. So I thought that can't be us. We just came from the party. I didn't know that was the after party.
We just came from the party.
Yeah. So it apparently, on campus. And that's not the first time. I mean, on some of those retreats, I remember things, would get a little wild, so that's what came to mind for me.
Wow.
All right, now wasn't expecting that.
That makes two of us.
When I think of, going to conferences and going to try to meet somebody, I think of a quote from, I think this was Chris Rock's, I think his Bigger and Blacker special. He said, when you meet somebody, you're not really meeting them, you're meeting their representative. Because you can't get nobody looking the way you look, talking the way you talk, sounding how you sound. You got the light to the person. So all I could think of is when you on these retreats, you're getting people at their very best dressed. They done had their quiet time every single morning.
Oh, yes.
They shared their faith all the time right before the trip. Yes. You're meeting the optimal version of this person. You're not meeting them on a regular day. So you meet this person and you think you're getting somebody. You think you're getting one thing, and you're getting somebody else. So I'm just like, how many people probably got set up for the okie doke meeting, trying to meet somebody at these conferences?
How is that different from the bar?
I mean, probably not different at all.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got
you. I agree with you, and Chris Rock is 100% right. I also think that's life though. Is you go out of town for the last several years I've had a job where I've been lucky enough to be able to travel for work, and work pays for it, and you go on these conferences, and that's what you do at a work conference.
Yeah.
Put on your best clothes, and you make sure the business cards you bring with you are crisp, and your elevator pitch is on point, and it's the best version of you when you're at that conference, and nothing about your personal life or the struggle you're having at your job that you're trying to leave because you really don't like the people that you work for, but you gotta smile and shake hands while you're at this conference. So that's not to detract from like what you said. Absolutely is the thing. I think it's like human nature to do that.
This is true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point.
I think the difference comes in, it is the exact same thing. I've been to all kinds of conferences too, secular ones, business, all kinds of, even, personal development stuff and all kinds of conferences. I don't know. I wonder though, with the ICOC, if it was another level to it of this, you're portraying this spirituality. It was in this framework of, this is God's kingdom, and there's all these like expectations on that on top of it. It's like, okay, I have to be my best self, but I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of messy because it's like, there's all this pressure to be something you're not, but then it's like you're involving God, and then it's like, I don't know, and then, you know, like we were saying, I mean, I know I went, it was the opportunity for us to be normal in a sense, and because conferences are normal things that people do, but it was almost like this secret society where we're a movement that we're changing the world. So this thing we're coming together, we're like the super friends, you know.
Super friends.
You know,
when the twin powers activate.
I used to feel like that, like it was like this secret, like we're on, you know, we're on this mission.
Yeah.
And you know, and so it wasn't necessarily something that you could share with everyone. You know, you had to be an insider.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I actually often end up mildly disagreeing with lots of former ICOC folks, especially when it comes to the cult word, the C word.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, a cult is something where there are secrets that you can't tell other people. And in my experience in the church, there was never anything that I was told that I can't tell somebody that's not a part of the church. But I have experienced, like for example, I did what the Mormon church calls investigating. So in ICOC, we call it studying the Bible. In the Mormon church, they call it investigating, but it's the same thing. This process of reading the scriptures to become a member of that church. And there were things that when I was investigating with the Mormon church, where there were things they couldn't tell me because I wasn't a member yet. There are things about I don't have firsthand experience with other religions, but I've just heard about other religions and denominations where there's things I'm not allowed to tell you. And that's just one data point I'm using. But in my mind, like that makes it less culty to me, because they were always saying, share your faith, tell them everything. So if they want to know, bring them in. All this, we can tell them all the stuff. So that was just my experience. I fully understand that wasn't everybody's experience.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I've always kind of like just seen differently, because a lot of the really hurtful and negative experiences so many people have had. I don't know if I was just lucky or whatever, but I really didn't have a lot of those. I had some. Obviously, I'm not there anymore, but not enough where I'm feel as strongly, especially to use the C word.
Gotcha.
You know, I think regarding the C word, I'm cool with using the C word. You know, I think even living in America, I have not experienced racism the way a lot of other people have. You know, I haven't. It hasn't been my experience. I'm from New York City. I haven't experienced it the way a lot of people have. And far be it from me to say, just because I didn't experience it, I can't say that it doesn't exist. So it's kind of the way I see it too. You know, there's a spectrum, right? There's levels to it. I guess there's levels to it, you know?
And I hope what I said didn't come off as anyone who calls it a cult or had a different experience than mine, something is wrong with them for seeing it differently.
No.
I just had a different experience. That's all it was. I'm not saying that anybody else is making it up or lying, or some of the stuff that people I really trust and care about, the stuff that they went through, surprises me. And I was sitting next to them in the pews. I didn't experience that. I don't know how to reconcile that 100%.
Yeah.
I just had a very different experience than some folks. So I'm okay with it. You can use the code. It's not going to offend me. You want to use the C word, go for it. It's not going to hurt my feelings.
True. Yeah, I want to bounce back to the whole conference thing real quick, and Trisha, if you want to add something after this, cool. I remember one particular conference. The only reason I wanted to go to this conference was because my interest at the time was going, and I finally got a date nailed down with her that we were going to go on a date during this conference. I'm like, all right, cool. Now,
was this a local conference for you, like in Atlanta, or
it was in, I think, South Carolina somewhere. So it was a drive for both of us, but it was short enough to where we both was cool with meeting up there, right? And every conference that I've been to prior to that, the format was on Saturday, you had like an opening message or whatever time, you had some classes, and then at lunch, you broke for lunch and you were free for like the rest of the day until maybe that night. So every conference I've been to up until then went with that format, except for this one. The one where I finally get a date with my would-be boo, and spoiler alert.
Would-be boo.
Spoiler alert, that never happened. But all of a sudden, this one, it's like, oh, you get an hour lunch break, and you got to come back for some more classes. What the? Seriously? I'm looking forward to spending at least a couple hours with homegirl, and now I'm relegated to just a really quick lunch date. I'm like, what the hell? Y'all just set me.
Damn, homie.
Damn, for real. Yeah, that I was not cool with that. Now every conference after that kind of followed that same pattern. So I'm like, did I just happen to get lucky in them those conferences before, and the norm was actually what I experienced that day? I don't know.
Yeah, a majority of the conference I actually went to were similar to what you just mentioned, where it was like class break, class. So I'm like, wait, there was free time? What's that?
Right. What's that? What in the world?
Right. I don't know. I think my conference experience is probably a bit different. I just think the angle that I come at it from it is, so I actually have a bit of social anxiety. I freak out being around large groups of people. I don't like it. So I was kind of giggling earlier when you were like, business conferences. I was like, man, I was just at one, and I literally spent like 3 hours in my hotel room in the middle of the day because I was like, people.
Yeah, you gotta prep for that.
I don't do well. I do. You have to mentally prepare, then take a break for a few hours and come back again. It's a process.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But so when I was, I was in the church for about 20 years, and man, I mean, unless it was like, like the World Discipleship Summit, for the most part, you were kind of expected to go to almost every single retreat that was going to be within your like couple of states radius, so when you had like that East Coast conference, you were kind of expected to go. Teen ministry, so teen conferences, I'm going to include teen camp, so teen camp too, that's like a little conference thing, campus ministry conferences, singles conferences, like we were expected to go to all of them. And if you didn't go, there was like a slight rebuking that would occur because why are you not going? Are you not dedicated? I'm like, money?
Right.
Well, you should figure out your finances so that
you gonna pay for me?
So there, yeah. Right. Like if you're willing to pay, and I have to, and usually it's like, it's not like just a weekend, like Friday afternoon to Sunday, it's like that, like we're gonna start Thursday, so you have to take a day off of work. So like it's a whole situation. So there was, for me, always just like a lot of that pressure of having to go. And then when I was in Philadelphia, like at the time, my aunt was like helping to head up the children's ministry leader. My uncle he was leading the song ministry. They were both like the couple that people would go to get marriage advice and all this other stuff. And so being their niece, but I lived with them. So then there was like that additional pressure of like, because of who, they're not my parents, but the parents are, there's like that added pressure of like, you have to go to these things, because then it's not just you, it's your ministry you're making look bad. It's your parents you're making look bad. It's your family group situation you're making look bad. It's your, so there was all this added pressure. But then you get there, and if you are not an extroverted person, if you have some form of social anxiety, if you are introverted, you are doomed, because you couldn't say, I need to take a break from this session. Like you had to go to every single class. And, like you had to have your schedule filled up. You had to go. I remember one time I was literally having an anxiety attack. And I just couldn't function. I couldn't even be in one of the classes anymore. I stepped out, and in the midst of an anxiety attack, I was actually being rebuked by a sister who didn't know me, but she rebuked me because she saw me leaving the class.
Wow.
And I'm like, midst of an anxiety attack, I'm like, I can't handle this. I can't handle my life. Like, what is going on? But like, it was a very like strict thing. where you had to go and you had to, because I mean, and I'm sure everyone here can relate, because if you're not going to it, then you're not being Christ-like, because you're supposed to put yourself on the cross and do what Jesus would do. And I'm like, no, Jesus literally abandoned people for a couple of days and was like, I'm gone. Come find me. I was like, even he took breaks, but that part was always skipped. It was like, well, you have to, pick up your cross daily. And that means if you don't like this, you have to still do it, because that's picking up your cross. So there was that, and then as I got older, I would find like there were other groups of people, like other people who would have that like anxiety thing. So we would literally, this is confession time, so I'm sorry for people who still do this. We would find each other, the anxiety of people, and then we would say we're going on a prayer walk.
We're going on a social battery recharge walk.
So like when we're just like, I need a break, I can't handle this anymore. We would just be like, I see you. Meet you outside in like 5. And so we go and we just walk. People like, what are you doing? I'm like, prayer walk. We're going on a prayer walk. We're just trying to pray over everything we're learning right now. And really just we needed to get away from it.
That's cool.
So my experience was just a lot more of that pressure of having to be there and having to do every single thing in order to say that you were being like Jesus. Because otherwise you just weren't being spiritual. And then you're getting rebuked on the drive home too.
Like, sounds like you were in survival mode, Trisha.
Oh man, I think I finally got out of survival mode a couple years ago. I was born into it.
Wow.
I stayed there for like a solid 30 years.
Damn.
That's some stuff I definitely saw in to a degree experience. So I'm an extrovert of extroverts, so I love big crowds of people. But Myron can attest to this from our time in Tallahassee. I had a reputation for not having a problem saying no.
So you know what?
Yeah. So I just, if I didn't want to do something, if I didn't want to go to a conference, you had to really give me a logical, reasonable explanation, and just telling me that I was sinful and rebuking me wasn't enough, because I was just going to look at you like.
If PowerPoint existed back then, you would have had to have given him like a full PowerPoint presentation with bulleted slides. This is why you need to go run.
Oh, I would have needed you in my life then. Like, it's like I need to just talk to him, and he'll make the decision for me. He'll help me out.
I was that dude. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yo, Trisha, you just made me realize how much my mentality has changed, from then to now. Because, you were telling me about how the person who did not know you at all took it upon herself to rebuke you because you left. Back when I was still, heavy in it, I had this mentality of, why do you need to know someone to rebuke them or challenge them? Because people always be like, you don't know me. Why does somebody need to know you? Like, but now hearing you say that, the first thought that came to my mind was, you don't know me. You don't know her
Right?
work. So I'm just like, wow, that is a night and day difference from how I felt back then to now. Like, where do you get off? Because if they actually knew you, they would know that, hey, she's not being rebellious. She's not being sinful. She's in survival mode. She's doing what she got to do to not freak the fuck out more. Because if I stay, y'all gonna really see me freak out, and it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a distraction.
Call that self-care.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yo,
We didn't like that.
Yeah, no, there was no such thing as self-care in the ICOC at all. Yo, so which I was just saying, I feel like that's a very good segue to another topic I wanted to hit. So Aldo on the illustrious Reclamation podcast.
Illustrious. All right. Hey, you like it? I love it.
Hey, yes. So you've been. Is this season 2 or season 3?
Season 3.
So in the midst of season 3, one big topic I know you've been hitting on is this book called the Discipling Dilemma. Is that right?
That's correct.
So in this book, some guys did I guess a survey or some research or something to that effect of the ICOC. Like, they were brought in to do this, right? They didn't
it was a psychological study to figure out why the church was growing so much in those early days.
Okay, cool. So in this, there was a lot of talk about the church forcing people's personalities to change. And you know, for the longest, I mean, after having left, you know, I didn't know what an introvert or extrovert was when I first got in. And, you know, and looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they were, in other words, trying to tell me that being an introvert was a sin. So it's almost like none of that was allowed. So you got that, the whole people's, because I think they said that Jesus was a certain, what was it, the Myers-Briggs test, right? That has the, you know, the 4 letters. I forget what mine is.
ESFJ. ESFJ. He was extroverted. Oh, my man. My man Ron. All right. Shout out to ESFJ.
One extrovert here.
Matter of fact, I feel like Ron should change his name description on the bottom left of the screen to ESFJ.
I gotta go to my Instagram. I'm an ISFJ-A. ISFJ-A is what I am.
That J in my name stands for something,
right? But yeah, I take it we're all in agreement that the church made us feel like if you weren't an extrovert, you needed to become one, and it was sinful to be an introvert. Would y'all agree?
100%.
Agreed.
That sounds fair.
I'm super extrovert, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, one guy.
Now it's funny because there's one. As soon as you mentioned, you know, me knowing how comfortable you were with saying no, right before you said that, I started thinking of a situation. I think there was some service we had at night down in Tallahassee, and I don't think this is not necessarily to do with being introverted or extroverted, but more so about you can't take time away. You can't be by yourself. You can't be selfish. And if y'all, like, you know, I don't know if we're gonna blank out faces on this or not, but for those of y'all at home, if y'all don't see our faces, I'm doing air quotes around selfish. Okay. I think we missed our ride or something like that, and we ended up walking to church that night. And you were pissed about something. I don't remember what it was, but you were not in the best of moods. So when we got there, I think I was trying to help calm you down. Everybody else that was close to us, you know, was like, hey, y'all good? Y'all all right? And as they're crowding around us, the guy who was discipling me at the time, you remember Carl, right? And okay, it's somewhat embarrassing moment. Me and my group of brothers, we called ourselves the Get Fresh crew back then. I don't know why that was a thing.
I'm sorry, you called yourselves what?
The Get Fresh crew.
It was not embarrassing. I claim it to this day.
Okay.
What year was this?
This is 2001. Yeah, 2001.
Was this named after like Dougie Fresh, or this is just like your?
I think it had something to do with it.
It's what you claimed to know.
Something to do with it, because I think the brother who dubbed us that, he was a very old soul. Like he was into like what was current, but he also had a lot of older music too.
Okay.
So I think I was conscious of it, but I think that might have had something to do with it.
Okay.
So Carl comes up to us in his group. Now we're not trying to party. We're not trying to like be unfocused. They were just genuinely concerned about us because we were late, because we had our ride didn't come get us, and we had to walk all the way to fuck the church. And Carl comes over without even asking any questions. Hey guys, no GFC tonight. You guys need to be out of yourselves. The
GFC?
Yeah, Get Fresh crew.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh.
So he said that. I'm like, dude, can you give us a moment? They're trying to console us right now. They're trying to, you know, make sure that we're okay, because we just walked from campus to church. And that's all you just immediately saw us congregating together and just assumed we was being into ourselves, assumed we was being selfish.
Oh, okay. So he's breaking up the mix. Whatever y'all doing, he's assuming that y'all are up to your regular antics, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ron, I don't know if you remember this. I think you went upstairs, and I think you were on the piano, like on stage. I think you were just trying to calm down or trying to just collect yourself or whatever. And somebody wanted me to come get you and bring you back down. I went up there, but I stayed with you. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not dragging him back down there. So just thinking about that situation just goes back to the whole, a little bit of the whole introvert extrovert thing, but also the fact that you could not take a moment to yourself. You couldn't self-care. You couldn't hey, this situation isn't where I need to be right now. I need to go do something else. No. You got to come back and be in the fellowship. You got to come back and be with the body. You can't decide, hey, this is not good for me right now. I got to step away.
Yeah, it didn't work for me.
No.
Why did you go to the piano on stage?
The way the way this church building was laid out, like it wasn't. I didn't like go up on the stage during service.
I forgot to put that out there. So where we were meeting was downstairs in like the kind of like the not really the basement but the lower level. So nobody was in the what do you call it? Yes, that. Nobody was in the sanctuary. I know ICOC don't use that word, but we growing up Black and Baptist is the sanctuary where the pews at, all of that. So nobody was up there, nobody was on stage. Like it was completely empty and quiet.
Yeah, so the meeting was actually it wasn't on a Sunday, so the meeting was actually taking place in the meeting rooms in the basement, or the lower level is Florida. It's not really a basement, but downstairs and then upstairs where the sanctuary was. So
we were
I
in
was
the fellowship hall. That's where we were. The fellowship
hall, exactly. So I was separating myself. I think a lot of people put a little too much heavy emphasis on the introvert extrovert thing. I think everybody has their moments. But there are times where even like the extrovert of extroverts like me, like I need alone time. Yeah. And I was taking that because I wasn't in a spot to be able to listen or participate in the activity that was taking place at the time. So I was like, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to chill out. And I'm a musician. I'm not a great musician, but I'm a musician. And so sitting down, playing music, listening to music is really helpful to someone like me. So that's what I did. I went upstairs and I sat at the piano and I played there. I'm like, if you want me to sit down here with y'all and just not listen and be mad, and if that's what you want, like that can happen. But I don't know who that serves. So
because they would have had something to say about that too. Why are you in the back with a resting a-hole face? Why are you back there looking?
But I'm glad you cleared that up.
I didn't have a problem saying no. If I wanted to peace out, I peaced out. Hey bros, let's go have a Bible study in the cemetery. Not doing it.
Ooh, was that a thing?
Wait, that was actually a thing?
Yes.
We did that.
I thought you were being facetious.
No, that shit legit happened.
You know that phrase I said earlier?
I had D time in the cemetery once.
Get behind.
So none of y'all ever seen the Thriller video? Like this is just not a good idea.
Speaking of the Thriller video,
I didn't do it.
No.
Okay, we gonna briefly play Never Have I Ever. Never have I ever.
Oh, 5 fingers up.
Had a date at a cemetery.
I've never.
I haven't. That's a thing.
So
no, it's not a thing. It was just.
That's just my ring.
No, this happened. This legit happened. My second date ever as in an ICOC.
Why?
I will also say this was a marathon date. Like it was needlessly long.
That doesn't make it better.
What does that mean?
It's a long ass date, basically.
Date?
Yeah.
It is like it's normally dates are like maybe 3-4 hours at the very, very most. That includes like driving time. No, this is like you hit like full work day, but it's a date.
So we would
and you
call
did not
those
get paid for it.
We would call those
you
a date.
Sacrifice your time.
We would call those a date. DAY-T. Date.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I never heard that before.
Those were the.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's another thing that I didn't do, which Myron can attest to.
Yeah. All right, so
but half the time as a sister, we didn't know what was happening. By the way, we just thought it was a date, and it kept going. And we were trying to get out. And
shame on them, because that's one.
Like
as double-edged sword and mixed feelings as I have about encouragement dates, I was like, no. These sisters need to know what the hell they doing on these dates, because some of y'all taking these sisters on hikes and didn't tell them, and they showing these dates with like dresses and heels on.
Not right.
But you taking them to the woods. Like,
been there.
Same.
Been there.
That's why I can run in stilettos, because of those dates. They prepared me.
All I can think of is Jurassic World.
Oh wow. So how did you? How does America? I didn't know there was a name for it. I didn't know it was. I experienced it. I didn't know that.
That's what I called them. At least I know a couple other people called them that. I don't know how widespread. I don't know how widespread it was. So that may not really be as big a thing.
We had that in Philly, so it was up in Philly. I can tell you that it was up. I was up in the north.
So Myron, how does that happen for you? Like, do a marathon days planned out, or is just something that just happens?
I think this one just happened because this is my second date as a disciple. So I was not involved in the planning process on this one too much. So this one all just kind of happened that way. So we went out to eat, and in hindsight, it was a place I probably had it wasn't super expensive. Like, it wasn't like one of those restaurants that's not a chain and you never heard of, and then you see the stuff on the menu, you don't see the prices next to them. Not one of those places. We must have went to, because if you don't see the price next to the name, that's their way of telling you, if you got to ask how much this stuff is, you shouldn't be here. You can't afford us. Anyway, it was probably like an Applebee's or TGI Fridays or something like that. But still, my broke ass college student self had no business going there because I ain't had no job, and I think I had spent my my net check by then. Anyway, so we went out to dinner there. Now it's late October, so we went to a haunted house after that. First, the only haunted house I've been to. It was actually pretty dope. That part was. I
just don't understand this. Haunted houses, cemeteries, man, woods. Like, it's too much for me right now, man.
I love it.
But houses are fun.
After the haunted house, my double decides, hey, I don't know why he did this. I really can't tell you. He decides, hey, we should walk through a cemetery.
Nope.
And so we went in there. Now we end up walking very briskly out because we ended up not being the only people in there. And it was just something a little off about the other people who were end up being there. We was like, okay, yeah, let's get out.
A little off?
Yeah. I don't remember that part of it that
to be off to go to a cemetery at night. I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, they weren't the only off ones there.
Yeah. So yeah, my double might have been a little off. Now, mind you, my double, he had maybe in the months before this had been demoted from being the leader of the FAMU campus ministry. I mean, I think he might have still been a Bible talk leader, but he wasn't like the head of the ministry anymore. And this guy would go on to get, I've talked about him on one video before. I think in the next year and a half, ended up getting this fellowship for causing dissensions, which I really think he saw through the BS and wouldn't shut up about it. Ron, you remember Keelis?
How do you forget somebody with that name?
This is true. Yeah, this is who I'm talking about. But yeah, so that was the marathon. No, what made it more of a marathon date was when we went to go drop my date off. Her roommates weren't home and she didn't have her key, so we had to wait until somebody got home. So by the time I got home, it was after midnight.
How long did y'all wait?
I forget how long, but we waited until somebody got there.
You were allowed to be with a sister past 10? Ooh, you sketch.
Yeah, I don't remember either. We didn't get discipled at all, or maybe Killers just got discipled on that. But yeah, hopefully he didn't, because I'm just like, we did the right thing, making sure she could get in. We ain't gonna leave her at a doorstep.
I think that's what saved you.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At least she wasn't, snowed in at somebody else's house and forced to stay there for a couple of days.
We cannot control the weather.
Right?
Or lack of traction on tires, all right?
Inside joke between me and Trisha, sorry.
If you had prayed hard enough, you could have told that mountain to throw itself into the sea and the snow to stop.
I know. I did not have faith the size of a mustard seed for that couple of days.
Repent. I love church jokes.
I love it when you can say it and people get it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. One of my favorite church jokes, I learned this after ICOC. Older white couple at a church I used to go to. You know why Baptists don't have sex standing up?
No.
Because they're afraid someone might see them and accuse them of dancing. Yeah, is that bad?
Aldo seems confused.
Are Baptists not allowed to dance?
Pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
I say
Okay.
Helen's like same way. She's like, wait, I'm here.
That's why the goody mob.
I'm a little lost on that. Is it like a purity culture kind of joke saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know, but wet blanket.
No,
I was
you
like
good.
just trying to think too hard about it. Like, okay, standing up, dancing. Okay.
Because
I've
there.
never seen Footloose, but it's like the plot, I assume, of Footloose, the town that you're not allowed to dance, and then
Mm-hmm.
fold and have a dance.
Yep.
Wow.
I guess that's
Because
Baptist.
apparently dancing leads to things, and yeah, I think it was a Baptist place.
Yeah, that
Well,
sounds about right.
let me ask Helen a question. So Helen, at this after party, was there dancing involved?
Oh yeah.
All right, then there it is. So
All kinds of
Trisha, you got it
Did they
right.
leave space for Jesus? That's my
'Cause I
question.
have to
Oh,
wonder,
no.
like, was there some bumping and grinding going on? Was there twerking
Oh,
going
yes.
on?
Oh yes.
Twerkulations and all of that.
Oh yeah, because the percolator was the dance that was out back then at that time,
time for the
and they were
It's time for
I
the
remember
percolator.
that being one of the jokes because I had a friend that went apparently, and I found out afterward he was like, yeah, we were percolating.
So
And-
somebody invited the percolator.
Yes, he was in the building.
But isn't the percolator like the Soldier Boy? You do it by yourself, right?
Well, not at that party.
No, not yet, not it. Yeah, but it was. Yeah, I mean, but it was. But I guess if it's a whole bunch of you percolating together, you know, it just
Percolating
adds
together
up. It
and
just
percolating a little
becomes
too
bad.
close.
Yeah, and you know, it was percolating, bumping and grinding. You know, I forgot what else. Well, you know, that whole thing, that whole vibe.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Percolating together.
Yeah, you know, because it was in this particular friend of mine, he used to he couldn't help himself. He would just you know, when we're at the regular, you know, like
Oh God.
we'd be hanging out and the music come on. I don't remember why.
He couldn't help but just start percolating. He just
He
can't
would
help
start
it.
percolating, and we'd like have to correct him and be like, "Stop! Don't do that! Like you can't do that."
So now we know who the instigator was for that particular dance.
Yeah, we're getting
He was
closer and
there. He's like,
closer
Get
to
it.
figure. We know who invited the percolator. Okay, we're at the end of the day, we're gonna know what went down. This is
We're gonna find
It's
out.
a
Yeah,
slow
it's like-
reveal across the whole
it's a
podcast.
slow reveal.
it was like
Spoiler
a
alert, it was
secret
Aldo the whole
club.
time.
Okay, first of all,
You were in DC.
It
You
was
already
me.
confessed to that.
It was me. I was just adjacent.
touche.
Percolator adjacent. I didn't know.
Jason.
I really was. I was square even. Confession. I mean, it's sad, but I was square even in the ICOC because the percolating people didn't tell me about it until afterward. Like, you know, only certain when there were
'Cause you
always
was a super
situations
disciple,
like
right?
that.
You would have been a snitch if you was there, right?
Yeah, because I was the super disciple, the leader. You know, the one that I'm like. You know, I report directly to the women's leader, so she's asking me what's going on, and so
Okay.
you know, it's like I'm kind of the low key policer.
Oh man,
No.
he's a narc. All right.
I was about to say snitch, but
Well, you know,
A rose by any other name is still a rose.
well, I say policewoman because that's
Police.
a different thing than the snitch. The snitch is the one that's feeding intel, right, to the leaders about what everybody's doing.
Sin and tell. Sin and tell. You
Sin
would
and
sin
tell.
and then telling everybody else so that you don't get caught.
yeah.
I would low key not say like I would, I'd be asked, but I was not really the one that'd be like, okay, this was doing this, this was doing that.
Mhm.
I would be like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see. But what I would do was I would be, you know how everyone's hanging out and then the jokes start going and then, it can get a little raunchy. I don't know
Yeah.
if I would even consider it raunchy now, but then,
Raunchy by Kingdom standards.
yeah, by Kingdom
was,
standards,
It was struggling.
yeah,
jokes.
struggling. Case in point, big thing, going to the movies. And the group of us are like, okay, we're gonna go to the movies, and and it would become an argument because I'm the one arguing against, the struggling person is picking the movie, and then everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna go see that movie, and I'm like,
we can't tell them we went to see this.
Because I'm in leadership group. It's like I'm gonna get asked. It's like, well, what were you doing? And then I'm there, so I'm an accomplice. So I'm trying.
Were you the one who was like against the movie 300? Were you like, y'all, we can't be seeing that?
Oh, that was after my time in the church. So
okay.
Yeah, I was more the old, back when Aldo was there, back in the ancient times.
I mean, first of all, this is I'm being accused of being old, right? And then I'm being accused of being a percolator. This is just
listen. We were there.
The old percolator.
Percolating's got no age, so
Hey,
it's
he's got one job.
Percolating is sort of like the modern day twerk. I guess what they would do, like in that realm of dancing. But anyway, yeah. So no, I was 300. I remember we went to see. I don't know if everyone knows this movie. There was this movie called what was that? There was this movie called Baby Boy, I think was the name of it.
Yeah. With Tyrese.
With Tyrese.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in my mind, I was like, the sister was like, yeah, we gonna go see Baby Boy. We gotta see Baby Boy. And I was like, like I was always the one. I was the one, like,
She was that mean.
Not. It's a little worldly, It's a little worldly, And it was like, no, we're going to see this movie. And I don't know. I didn't end up going because I don't know, for some reason I thought I think because I saw I saw who was in it. And then I saw like the trailer. I was like, oh, this is going to be some stuff going on, some sexual stuff, and, and some stuff happening. And so, yeah, I was that person that was like, no. And they, and a lot of times, like the Ron, in the group, people were like, I remember as a sister was like that too. She'd just be like, oh, okay. So let me go get my tickets because I'm going anyway. And I mean, another movie I remember we went to see The Matrix was out. Like I'm dating myself because this was when The Matrix, the second one, came out.
Yeah.
And there was this scene in The Matrix. It was like, it was like a huge orgy. It was like that weird scene in the. You remember that?
It's like a Matrix. Or like,
yeah, in the. I forgot the name of the place. Zion. Thank you. And it was that scene. And it was it was just like a huge thing going on. And I was the same person, like, like I didn't, but I was watching it, and it was this weird thing. Did any of you guys ever have this weird experience of when a scene would come on in the movie, you're all together? It was like this kind of, this weird thing you do. You cover your eyes.
I still can't do it. Like I visually, like I can't even watch people kiss on a TV show, like anything like that. So I'll be watching with my husband, and I'm like, are they done? He's like, dude, seriously? I'm like, I just can't watch it. I was like, forever, that's my PTSD, I guess. Because the years of like, you can't watch it. So I'm like, that just feels weird. So
if you were the one that did watch, you get discipled afterwards.
Yo, that happened.
I know, right?
Helen, I think I told you this story. in my first month of being a disciple.
A lot went down in your first month.
A lot.
I know. That first month, the first year was really weird for him. It was rough.
Your man's at the cemetery. He's in the woods.
I survived
going down.
I survived the experience. But we all went to the Dollar Theater. We all went
Dollar Theater. Is that the like $1 movie theater or something like that? What are we talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we all went to see Kings of Comedy.
Oh
no!
Now, I had seen it already. I saw it the summer before I became a disciple. Summer before going to college. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go see Kings of Comedy. And we make it past Steve Harvey's part, and then we get into D.L. Hughley's part, slowly but surely, everybody that I came with starts getting up and leaving.
Oh.
Like I see it, but it didn't really click in my head yet. I'm laughing uncontrollably. I'm laughing at all the stuff, right? And long story short, I end up being the only person still there, and I was like,
it was at that moment he realized it's okay to go to the movie theater by yourself.
yeah.
Have no witnesses.
But I the only reason I actually got up and left was two reasons. One, spiritual peer pressure. Two, my ride gone. So I'm like, if I don't leave with everybody else, I'm stuck here, and I gotta take the bus back. I mean, I had free bus fare, due to my student card, but still, I'm just like, I don't want to take that chance. So one of the sisters pulled me aside, and she's like, you know why we all left? I'm like, yeah, no, dang it. But yeah, there's that spiritual peer pressure. I'm like, well, what y'all doing? This is funny. I've seen this before. What are y'all talking about?
If I can, I remember that coming out, and I remember going with a group of people to see that, and I had an interesting experience in the sense that I had a group of people that I chilled with. It was a group, and we trusted each other, and no one told on each other. So we went to see Kings of Comedy. And it was just brothers. We didn't take no sisters, man. We didn't know what they were gonna say.
Yeah.
So it was just we ain't know. So it was just brothers.
Helen took that personally.
I'm sorry, was that?
Helen took that personally.
No, I think it's funny though, because I see exactly because the sisters would have told on y'all.
Definitely told, and I would have got mad.
Now, see,
you understand?
I'm the sister. My brother would have taken because he knew I would have been laughing alongside with them.
Jesus.
So.
No, man, I would have listened because I had those moments where there were a lot of rebellious moments that I had, and I isolated myself with people around me that were just down. There was a few brothers. We still listen to rap with the curses, and we would talk about the albums in secret. I remember the Blueprint came out. Me and this one brother were like, yo, you heard song number 6 though. Right? But we couldn't say that to everybody because other people would just they would just say things. So there were these moments. And the fact that I had to operate like that, after some years was like, okay. All right. This is interesting.
Let me ask you a question.
We had a name for that. That's called a sin buddy.
Ooh.
Yo, why are you blowing up spots, yo? We were just chilling.
Although
I had him too. That's why I know the name.
She had prayer part. She was going on prayer walks. So y'all,
Guys.
Ron, you had something?
prayer walks.
God,
right.
I love it.
Which really
We talked about during those prayer walks, but
I love it.
Ron, you had a question?
Yeah, Aldo, you said that you were being rebellious. Is that actually how you felt that you were being at the time, and the same way you feel about it now, or is that
Good question. There were sometimes I'm sorry?
Those were your words. I'm just curious what's behind that.
Yeah. There were times when the rebelliousness was intentional. I remember the time watching the movie. No, I didn't think so, but I knew that I purposely didn't tell other people. Right? I wasn't open about it. But I do remember there was one time when we were getting new discipling partners at midweek service. I remember this. And the brothers are standing in a circle, and they were signing new partners. And then they gave me a new discipling partner. And I was not a fan of this new discipling partner. So I said, nope, I don't think so. And I left. I left the circle. I left church.
Whoa.
I went home. I remember that. And that was purposely rebellious. And of course, later on, he's still my discipling partner regardless.
Dang,
so I do remember instances like that. So there's times when I do remember being rebellious at the time. And then there's times when I think back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was also rebellious. So there was a lot of give and take. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I have more questions, but I don't want to make it.
Hey, listen, that's why we're here.
Well, I guess why?
Why what?
Why be rebellious? So in my mind, rebellion has a lot to do with feeling some kind of way about the establishment. I'm speaking generally about rebellion and rebelliousness, not necessarily just the ICOC. In my mind, it has to do with feeling negatively about the establishment and passive aggressively fighting the establishment, and that's in this context is what it seems like to me. But why do that? Like, so for me, like, it was like, I would just, no, I'm not going to do that. And if you can give me a reasonable explanation, like, okay, I'll get on board. But like, I'm not hiding what I'm doing. So like, I'm like really upfront, like, yeah, like, this is not, like, the sister I'm going out with on Saturday, this is not a date. We're hanging out.
I remember that.
I like you. We're cool, like, as people, and I enjoy your company, but I refuse to call this a date. And if you're not okay with that, then that's okay. Like, I guess we won't hang out, but I'd still like to hang out with you. But like, I'm not gonna call it that. And so like, that was a hill that I was willing to die on. It's a small hill, but like, still, that's one of those things. So some people would call that rebelliousness. For me, it was being intentional about my words and my actions. Yeah. And I believe words have power, and calling it a date in the American context was just wrong. So I just refused to do it. So to me, that wasn't rebelliousness. To me, that was like being truthful. So I guess I wonder, like, in that context, like, yo, like, if you really like the Jay-Z album, I get there are definitely people who would have frowned upon that. But I wonder, without putting words in your mouth, I just wonder why you would characterize it that way for you.
Yeah, because I think there's a part of it where if you're open about these things, you're getting kicked out. And I wasn't trying to get kicked out. I've seen people get kicked out. I've experienced being kicked out, and I wasn't trying to do that. So there was a part of me that was trying to find a balance between being authentic and trying to get along to go along. If that's the right way to say it. I think so. So there was a mix of both, man. There was a mix of both. There's some times that I reflect now and I'm like, man, I wish I would have been more truthful and honest and open, right? And more verbal, right? And as opposed to being passive aggressive. And there were times that I was more direct. I certainly wish I was more direct, but that just wasn't me at the time. It was a mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that too, because I think back then my spine was still developing. So there was, times where I was like, I might have wanted to stand up against something and I just didn't have the gall to do it. There are other times where I just want to hear nobody mouth about it. Music specifically, I went back and forth between whether or not I wanted to, listen to stuff that had cursing in it or not. There were times, I remember one time, this is after a conference, and after talking with a bunch of brothers, I was like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of all of my music that has explicit lyrics in it. Did that eventually come back? Did I eventually rebuy some of those albums? Hell yeah, I did. But it's like, I'd be in it, like, say if I'm in my car or something, I knew what music I wasn't going to play around certain people. Again, because I ain't trying to hear nobody mouth about it. I ain't trying to have nobody being like, hey, well, Myron was listening to the explicit version of the latest Wu-Tang album. He was listening to the explicit version of Outkast or whatever. So, which is also a point of contention for me, because I'm just like, you get in some disciples' cars and they would play stuff that had explicit lyrics in it. No one is not the clean version. And then the curse word comes up and they act surprised, and then they switch to the next song. Joker, we had already heard it. Let that junk ride. That's my jam. But you want to change this song because you act like you know what song is on that play. It's off a blank CD. You put that thing on there.
I know, right? You chose this.
Just either don't play it in mixed company, which is a lot of stuff we all did. We did certain things, and certain things around mixed company, and certain things when we was around, like, I was like, you had your crew of people who you knew wasn't gonna snitch. So you knew you could do these things. Like, saying we all did it. So it's like either like know who's in your car and don't put certain things in there, or if you gonna play it and own it. You know.
Hey, man, it's biblical, Byron. You got to be all things to all people. On Mondays, you got to be a gangster. You know, on Tuesday, you know, you got to be something else. You know.
Yo, somebody said reminded me of this, and also speaking of only doing certain things with certain people. What were some of the games that y'all played when hanging out with people? Because I know one of my favorites was Mafia. Any y'all ever played Mafia?
I love Mafia.
No, I don't think I played that. Maybe we called it something different.
With ICOC folks, though.
Was that?
I never played with ICOC folks. I played with church people, but never ICOC.
That was the first. That was my introduction to it. Some people, it was a variation of another game called, I think, Werewolf or Vampire or something like that.
Yeah.
So
you know what, Myron, man. Listen, man. Werewolves.
Oh, that's right. You know, we staying away from horror stuff. Yeah.
Woods, graveyards, man. Was this also in your first month of discipleship?
No. This was a while. Actually, I wouldn't put onto this one until I moved back to Atlanta.
What's Mafia? I've never heard.
So,
how does that go?
So we would probably have to have at least twice as many people as we have now to play it. So basically, you got the townspeople versus the mafia, right? So let's just say if we had 10 people, 2 people, I think that might still be.
Have you ever seen the movie Clue?
Yeah.
Imagine Clue, but it's a group of people sitting in a circle. It's not a game. It's a murder mystery. You have to figure out.
It's a whodunit thing.
Okay. All right. Cool. Got it.
So,
I got that.
So me and
love that movie, by the way.
It's excellent.
Love that movie, by the way.
See, I gotta okay. See that's homework for me. Clue. So let's just say me and Ron are the mafia, right? So we playing in a group of like 15 people or whatever. So nobody but me and Ron know that we're the mafia. So as far as everybody else knows, we're all townspeople, but we got to figure out who 2 in the group is the mafia. The mafia kill at nighttime. So like there's a narrator basically. I remember now. Somebody, Helen, when you're talking about being a cop, right? And that reminded me like certain versions of mafia, you don't just have
Sheriff Helen.
Certain versions of mafia, you don't just have the townspeople in the mafia. You might, one person's a cop, one person's a medic, one person's this other person. I didn't like playing with that because I feel like that just made it too cute, too complicated. Like just townspeople in mafia. So there'd be a daytime and a nighttime phase. During the daytime phase, the townspeople would say, "Hey, I think Aldo's the mafia because I think his voice is too deep. He sounds like a villain." And then
he's not
right.
I would imagine that's not how we play the game, right? Like if I'm the percolator, you cannot say that I'm the percolator. Is that how it works? Somebody has to figure it out.
Well, so if you got accused of being the mafia or the percolator, like I might say, you know what,
being the percolator.
You know what, I'm a second you on that. I think Aldo is the percolator. Anyway, so when 2 people get both accused and seconded, like if somebody, like if I say I think Aldo's the mafia,
and somebody agrees with the accusation,
right? Then you get put on the hot seat. Once we get 2 people on the hot seat, the 2 people on the hot seat have to defend themselves. Hey, I'm not the mafia because of this. I'm not the mafia because of that. And then all the townspeople vote, and they say, so whoever got the most votes, that's who the townspeople kill them during the daytime. Nighttime comes, narrator says, "Hey, who wants to kill Aldo? Who wants to kill Myron? Who wants to kill Ron? Who wants to kill Helen? Who wants to kill Trisha?" And the way I just got real. Playing, right? Was that?
It just got real.
It just got real. The way I'm used to playing it is everybody closes their eyes during nighttime, and as the narrator says the name of the person you want to kill, if you're the mafia, you raise your hand. You can only raise your hand once. So if me and Ron want to kill Trisha, we both had to have raised our hands when the narrator says I want to kill Trisha. And if we both hit during daytime, they say, okay, 2 shots were fired last night and unfortunately Trisha died. But if I raise my hand on Trisha and Ron raises his hand on Aldo, then they say 2 shots were fired but nobody died. That means that there's still 2 mafia left by the number of shots fired, but they both missed. So the mafia are not on the same page. There's some discord there. But other people play it to where the mafia can actually be awake during nighttime and they just point at whoever they want to kill, which I feel is too easy.
Okay.
Anyway, those two cycles keep going on until either both mafia have died, meaning the townspeople voted them off during the day, or the mafia have killed enough people during the nighttime to where it's just like the mafia and the townspeople are equal in
This
number.
game sounds like fun. I think I'd like to play.
It's a very fun. Go ahead, Ron.
I wanted to ask another question. I'm going to answer yours real quick before I ask everybody a question. The only game I remember playing regularly was Spoons, and that game.
Ooh, that shit got real.
Because I got like scratched my arm, my forearms. Messed
I
up.
lost the part of a nail before. Like people get
Helen, what the hell was going on down south? I don't understand this. Helen and I are like, Helen's got the face of Clutch the Pearls. What the hell is going on?
You're scratching up your arms. You're losing nails. What is going on in Spoons?
I got stabbed with a spoon.
I love hearing. Even to this day, including ICOC dates, I can't remember a bad date. I have had uneventful dates. I have had boring dates. I have had uninteresting dates. I've never had a bad date. I love bad date stories.
Now, Ron, you were on one of the only bad dates I had.
Oh,
you remember this?
I guess Byron's starting this one off.
Was that also within the first month?
No, it was not. This was the second year.
All right.
So this was you because you were my double on a date when I had.
Yeah, I was not his date. Just to clear up.
This was when I was dating, and me and my ex was going through some things, and so I'll leave it at that. This was one of those moments where she was like, "Yeah, I don't really feel like you're leading well," and this was starting to permeate into the tone of the relationship. So me and her were not vibing together at that time. So yeah, I think you were on that date with us, and we just was not getting along that day. She was paying more attention to her dog at her house than she was paying to me. Yeah, it was like that. But yeah, that's one of the only bad dates I've ever had. So I'm just like, so the fact that you said you never been on a bad one, I'm like, I've been on one bad one and you was there for it.
I mean, didn't involve me. I was just there. Part of the
you
party.
Was cool. Yeah, you and your date were fine.
Aldo,
yeah.
Helen, Trisha.
What's the question? Were there any bad dates?
Yeah, like a.
Nah, I didn't have a bad date, man. I thought I had fun on just with all the ones that I went on. Now, I don't know if the sisters feel the same way.
Let's get the other side of that.
But I had a ball. But you know what though? Again, it was that silent protest because I didn't really call them dates, man. I just hung out with the people I was cool with.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what it was. And I wasn't trying to go on a date with the people I didn't really want to chill with. So I would, I remember I would just plan my date book would be like 2 months in advance, only because I did not want to hang out with somebody I didn't want to hang out with. So it'd be the same group of people too.
So you somewhat rebelled too by not, because I think there was that unwritten rule that unless you was interested in that sister and you had the coveted green light, unless you had that, you weren't supposed to go out on the same sister again until you went through all the other sisters. Then you come back to her. So you had some rebelliousness with that too. Then
I don't know if it's rebelliousness. It was just more. Let's just call it. I was preserving my energy.
I'm with it.
That's what I was doing. Yeah,
self-care.
No, for real, man.
All these things were not allowed in the ICOC.
But then again, I was in a ministry that was pretty big, and I was also in New York City, and New York City had, there was a lot of disciples, and I also happened to know people that lived in other boroughs. So for those of you who've never been in New York City, just understand that the boroughs are, people call New York City a melting pot, but it's really more like the compartments on a lunch tray. Just all in the same tray. Like everyone's not matched together, it's just separated. And dating somebody, being in a relationship with somebody from another borough is a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
It just is. It really is.
That's,
like Helen is from Queens. I'm from the Bronx. And Helen's family will call the Bronx upstate New York. Keep in mind, Keep in mind, it is less than 10 miles to get to. Keep that in mind. So I think being in New York City gave me an advantage because it was, 5,000 disciples, and I just happened to know people in other boroughs. So it wasn't like the same 5 sisters, it was a little bit more widespread than that. So that's so yeah, man, had some fun ones. There were some that were boring, right? Some that were whack, but it wasn't like it wasn't bad. Nah, I ain't got no stories, nothing like that. Not like that.
I'm wondering if Helen had the same experience. Like, first, I will say I had never had a bad date that I can remember. Yeah, there were some that were boring. There were some where I'm just kind of, especially those, marathon dates were just like, oh dear God, I just want to go home. I want to be here. I don't want to be here anymore. It was just, pure boredom. But I've never had a bad date. But I'm wondering if Helen had this. Like, we were not allowed to say no to dates.
Yeah.
So, like, if a brother asked us, we were like spiritually obligated to say yes.
Trisha,
Could not say no.
Trisha, I'm sorry. Please, I just need to say this.
Yeah.
Well, as a member, I didn't really realize that.
Same. For a while, I didn't.
No.
I didn't really realize that.
I know most of the brothers didn't know that.
No.
Like,
I thought I had game. I thought I had game.
Their advantage. Like, well, and I think that was the thing, because you have those like separated devos, right? Where like the guys are in one
way
room
too many
having
of
their
them.
talks, the girls are in another room having their talks.
Way too many of them.
And that was one thing we were literally told and taught was, these are encouragement dates. You're supposed to go on them. If you say no, you're encouraging the brother to go one step closer to, females of the world. And so it was like our obligation in helping you spiritually, like we had to say yes. That's why I'm grateful I've never had a bad date, because I've never said no, unfortunately.
Oh boy, yeah.
But
wait,
yeah,
so not just with your dress code, not just with your dress code, in other ways, you were responsible for a brother's spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, y'all.
That's why y'all probably never got told no. I'm sorry. I'm like, you're like, I thought I was so great.
So on that thing.
Yo, I thought I had game, yo.
Aldo was like, he's like questioning now his entire existence. Like,
his whole life is a lie.
I thought I had game. It wasn't until I left, and my wife was a member, right? My wife was a member too, and not too long ago we were talking about it. She was like, there were so many creeps, and I had to go on dates with creeps and this and that, and I was like, wait, what? And then she goes, and then she said something to the effect of, part of the reason she said I didn't mind hanging out with you, talk about me. She said, you weren't a creep. And I was like, wait a second. So all of y'all said yes by default? So I was just the less creepiest? Is that what you're telling me? She was like, no. She's like, that's not what I'm saying, but that was a factor. And I was like,
true for somebody.
I was like, damn. I was like, damn. So I wasn't cool. Damn, son. All right, side. It was. Yeah.
So, quick question. So Helen and Trisha. So for us, like you guys said, we didn't know that y'all weren't allowed to say no. Did y'all know that we were told we had to ask every weekend, or we were struggling?
I knew that.
Okay, so
I knew it.
See that
was also part of the reason we had to say yes, because if you guys went one weekend where you did not have that date, then that was our fault.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That's because we didn't step up and do what we were supposed to do as your sisters in Christ.
Oh wow. Okay.
Now, were you told you had to say yes even if you already had plans? Like you had to break your plans?
Canceled plans. One time I was planning on working on a weekend and I had to literally cancel work so I could go on a date.
Damn.
We had to cancel. It didn't matter what we had going on.
The day I found that out, I was floored. I was like, on behalf of all the brothers everywhere, I'm sorry, because
I know.
Well, I gotta say, for me though, here's what's interesting. I don't remember explicitly being told I can't say no. It was a fact. But when I came in and how I came in, it was presented to me as it wasn't called encouragement dating. The sisters who brought me in told me this was about building friendships. And so that was my introduction to dating. It was about building friendships. This wasn't romantic. This wasn't, this is an opportunity. They read me the scripture about encourage one another. So they said that dating was just a form of that for the brothers and the sisters, for purity reasons and stuff. In retrospect, what you're saying, I'm thinking about situations, and although the specific leadership I was under, I don't remember that being said directly. It was expected. It was like if someone asked you on a date, I guess because I never said no either. So I don't have a reference point of if I said no, like you just knew it wasn't allowed. Like you just knew you had to say yes because, but also while knowing the brothers, like because I had friends with brothers, non-romantic friendships, with brothers, we were cool. So I knew that they were being pressured in a sense, like, there was this intense pressure to ask us on dates. And then, but even though it wasn't said directly to me, I like a lot of situations it's just the specific people that I came in under didn't say that to me directly. It was just, but they did say it's our responsibility as sisters. They would say, like you're saying, that's how they would present it. This is our responsibility to keep the brothers encouraged because they have so much temptation from women in the world. We have to, let me tell you something. I don't know if this happened to you, Trish, but we would get slammed for you couldn't win. So I remember being slammed one midweek. The women's leader tore into us. She said, you guys are looking so frumpy. And so, y'all are not keeping it, basically keeping it tight. It's like y'all are not keeping it together the way. But it was a result of, because when we would, put makeup on or wear particular clothes that were more normal, but in the church, it would be borderline. And they were like, oh, this is causing the brothers to struggle. So
y'all
then
can't win.
Huh?
So y'all just can't win.
It was not designed to let us win.
Yeah. And after being told that over and over again and constantly being tapped on the shoulder, it's like, this is showing, or pull your shirt down, or you just start, and then being told you're going to cause the brothers to sin. You're going to cause them, to lust. You're going to cause them to, you're going to cause issues with their relationship with God and their purity. And in the culture, brothers and sisters, it just became like, oh, okay, why bother? If, and I remember one particular day, being discipled on this, like, you guys are looking way too frumpy. I think that's the word she used. She's like, you guys are not wearing makeup. You guys are, your hair, your outfits, you need to dress more feminine and sink this in. And, it was like all this stuff. And the reason I remember her saying, your brothers have all this temptation with women in the world who aren't frumpy, who are looking good, who have heels on, who have, wear dresses. And, you guys gotta, spice it up to give them something to be attracted to, because
well, you should tempt the brothers and not the women in the world.
Exactly.
You just couldn't win. And so either you're too risque or you're too frumpy, you're not, and it's our fault. So that's what I experienced. It's like that type of teaching and discipling, on, but it was the same thing. It's like, they have all this temptation and we have to say yes, because if we don't say yes, like you said, Trish, there's a woman, I remember being told just stuff like, because there's a woman who there's a girl at school who's checking for him, or there's a woman at his job that's, giving him an eye that wants to go to lunch with him, so we had to, they used to tell us to protect the brothers' hearts.
Yeah.
For the record, I never, ever told on any of the sisters and said she's making me struggle. If she wore a certain thing, I kept that to myself and said, all right, you do what you do.
I wish there were more brothers like you then.
How righteous of you. How righteous.
I kept it to myself. You understand? That's another one of those things you just can't share with everybody. It was just, all right.
Well, I wish. I once got rebuked because I used to wear glasses, and I came to church one time. I just tried contacts. So I had contacts in and my hair was straight, and I got rebuked after church because I looked too good.
Oh.
I was like, all I had to do, because I have natural hair, I'm like, all I got to do was put on contacts and straighten my hair, and apparently I'm a struggle. So I know, right? So I appreciate brothers like you who didn't say anything, because
I don't think the brothers But I don't think the brothers did say anything. Is that? I don't really remember.
I know one brother did, and I knew who it was because he made a comment, and then later I got talked to. So I know one brother for that particular instance who said something.
I don't know if this is just everybody else, all the other guys in church, or it was just me, but I would have been afraid to address that to a sister in church directly, because I feel like the implication is, well, why are you looking that hard to notice? Like you looking at, if you're seeing all the curves, you're looking too hard, brother. You need to come and repent. It's time for a prayer meeting down in the fellowship hall. So I would have never said anything this isn't the only reason, but if for no other reason, then I feel like it would have been turned on me of like, you shouldn't have noticed if you were, to the pure, all things are pure. So you only noticed because your thoughts ain't pure.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're right. It's a trap. I think for guys, it's a trap.
It's a trap. It's a booty trap. We're not doing it. All right. I'm not falling for it.
It's a trap though. Like, what you have to do as a brother, I think you have to go be a tattletale. You have to just run and tell that to the pat. You got to talk to the leader or the Bible talk leader, like concern, like the sisters, probably like that, that brother, it's like that brother, this, but if you went directly, that would, I think I've even seen that happen or something along those lines, and it doesn't work. Like, it does backfire on you.
Man,
most of the time we would get in. I think, Trisha, I don't know for you, every time I remember being tapped was from a sister. Like, it was always a sister doing it to sisters. Like, sis, you pull this up, pull this, or it was always another sister. I mean, I don't know if she's talking to a brother and the brother said something. I mean, that does happen, but I've never had a brother directly say anything.
I have a few times, but it was only like brothers who were like really like actual brothers to me, who like overheard sisters saying something or overheard another brother saying something. And so like as a legit brother came to me and they're like, warning.
This might come down the pipe later.
So exactly. So that's the only time I've ever had guys come to me directly. But outside of that, same. It was always sisters coming to me. It didn't have to be a sister I knew.
Myron, if you don't mind, man, I just want to go back real quick. To Ron's initial question. I did not have bad dates, but I do remember one blind date in particular, and I didn't appreciate it because I'm look, man, I'm 5'7". All right, that's what I got. All right, this is how God made me. All right, this is what it is. Okay, and this one brother asked me to double with him. I was like, all right. He was like, man, listen, man, his sister from such and such. I was like, all right, cool, man, let's do it, man. I'm with it. And homegirl was 6'2". Okay.
I don't see a problem.
Okay, you don't? Well, I don't see her. How about that? Okay. Okay. I was like, come on, B, you got me out here with the, come on, B. Like because we holding the,
set you up with
we ride in the train. Listen, we ride in the train. And when you hold on to the pole above, like the pole is like right about here to me. You know what I'm saying? Like right here. So I'm standing next to her and I'm talking. I'm like, so blah, blah, blah. And she's like this, like her joint is like at her chin. She's looking down. Like, I was like, come on, man, why you got me out here like this? So that wasn't a fun experience.
Wow. I'm sorry, dude.
That was memorable.
Dang. Y'all, I just had an epiphany, right? So the whole concept of, if a brother, Helen, I think you and I talked about this before. If a brother make a sister ever so slightly uncomfortable, he ain't gonna hear about it from the sister, right? He's gonna hear about it from his discipler or more people the next day, right? I'm starting to realize the sister's equivalent to that might be you got taught, all of a sudden the sister talks to you about something you had on because a brother told his discipler that she was wearing or acting however to make him struggle. So now that has to go through the grapevine to get to you. Because, we talked about how, like, none of us, I know Aldo, me, Ron, we never would have, told, we wouldn't have said that directly, or we wouldn't have said it to somebody else. But what I remember being at a conference once, Ron, I think we might have been at the same conference. I think this was CSA 2002 down in Orlando. I don't even know if we were in the same class, but one brother was addressing a brother's question about, hey, if this sister's wearing this or wearing that, like, do I talk to her directly or do I tell somebody else? He's like, no, man, don't tell the sister indirectly, because sisters are really insecure, and if you tell them that, it'll make them feel even worse, blah 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 blah. And I was just like, I don't know how I really feel about that statement in and of itself. But anyway, he was basically, even if he might have said the wrong thing on the way to this point, he was saying it wasn't wise for a brother to tell the sister that directly. So I'm like, I know this is happening somewhere. So somewhere, a brother has told his discipler, and that discipler told whoever on the sister's end, and that sister tells the offending sister, hey, you need to cover up, you need to do that. So I'm like, that's got to be, even if it's not a one-to-one comparison, that's got to be the sister's equivalent to, oh dang, brother, you you made this sister feel uncomfortable on the date last night. What happened?
Totally reasonable way of thinking. I mean, the warning labels on a bunch of packages, like the warning label on a slip and slide to not put on concrete. That's obvious to us that you don't put a slip and slide on concrete, but they put the warning label on there because somebody somewhere did it. So they got to put the warning label on there. The slip and slides do not go in the parking lot. So the point being is yes, like they make those announcements.
Somebody did it.
Yeah, somebody did it.
Most likely.
Somebody used a hairdryer in the shower. So
most likely.
Label.
Most likely in New York City, because we ain't have backyards, so that slip and slide was on the street. That's for sure.
They saw one too many slip and slide commercials. Like, we gonna get the slip and slide on.
Yo, that slip and slide.
In Queens, at least. Don't y'all have yards?
Yeah, we got backyards.
Listen, man, I'm from the Bronx, man. That slip and slide was on 170th Street in the Grand Concourse, right next to the one bus.
Hey, concourse got a marble floor. Are you all right?
Damn.
I don't know what concourse you talking about. That was it.
Yo,
that's probably what happened.
I want to backtrack real quick. Although another point that was made in the discipling dilemma, the whole, what was it, imitate your leaders thing.
Okay.
So during those interviews that you would do, it reminded me of when I moved back to Atlanta. I never really saw this in Tallahassee. When I moved back to Atlanta, I feel like they took that way too seriously. Just like, we took the whole brothers got to lead thing way too seriously. So that permeated into things that really shouldn't have been a thing. Like, oh, that means that the sisters can't ask the brothers out because that means they would be leading, stuff like that. So with this whole imitate your leaders thing, what I would notice is, so I'm in the AU ministry, all the HBCUs in Atlanta, they just kind of shoehorn me in there because I was at DeVry didn't fit nowhere else in there. So I'm black, so they put me at the AUC. Anyway, I noticed that all the brothers in the AUC ministry started dressing and acting just like the brother who led that ministry. All the sisters dressed and acted just like his wife.
Yeah.
Everybody who went to Georgia State looked alike and dressed alike. I was like, I'm not drinking this Kool-Aid. and this might, not that I ever wanted to be a leader, but I think that might have been why I never, I got approached to be a Bible talk leader twice in Tallahassee. It never happened when I was in Atlanta. So I'm wondering, one, the fact that I was on a friend school, I might have been the only disciple in campus anyway at DeVry. And so I just was kind of on the outskirts of that. Maybe another reason why they never approached me, which I'm glad, but maybe another reason was I just wasn't on the whole, oh, I'm gonna imitate everything about everybody. Not just some, if they say imitate their faith, hey, imitate them as they imitate God. Like, if it was that, I can understand, but no, you're supposed to imitate all these other things that don't really even matter. So just want to know if it had y'all experienced that wherever y'all were.
I did not.
Thank God.
I mean, I've seen it in different parts. When I was in the teen ministry, there were a certain group of people that try to emulate the teen leader in dress and speech, in mannerisms, and it was a big compliment to say, "Oh man, look, you remind me of such and such." And there were, I do remember that. In campus ministry, I don't know if I've seen that so much in campus ministry the way that you saw it, Myron. But I just thought it was really interesting that in the book they wrote that, and the book was written in like 1985.
Wow. Yeah.
And they were describing things that you witnessed in the year 2000 something. So it was I thought it was interesting to say the least, but I did see it. I don't remember personally adhering to that. I don't think so. Maybe I need a minute to think about it, but yeah, it was. I thought it was a thing. It was a thing.
I think I had that scripture used against me one time. I think within the last year of me being there.
What scripture is that?
The whole, like, whatever scripture says, imitate your leaders. The brother who would eventually tell me you can do what you want, but can't do it here.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. He trying to disciple me on the fact that I was teaching salsa every Friday night and being there by myself, all that other kind of stuff. Like, all these other brothers who are leaders, they wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So why follow their example. Look at what they're doing. Would they be doing what you're doing? I mean, I just kind of took it, but I was just like, whatever.
Yeah, a similar thing precipitated my exit, and it was. It wasn't teaching salsa classes on Friday. It was going to a Bible study at a different church on Friday. Did not conflict.
How dare
with
you?
ICOC Bible study.
Here's the rebellion.
At the time, I was at the Gainesville church, and they only had Friday devotional once a month. So the other 3 Fridays, I would go to a different church devotional. And
Ron, when you say different church, what do you mean? Like a different section of the ICOC, or just a totally different congregation?
A totally different unaffiliated church in town that people from the ICOC church didn't know. They didn't know those folks because they ain't us. They ain't us. So I would go there the other 3 Fridays, and word got around to leadership that I was going there, and that made them uncomfortable. Now, no one said anything to me. I asked about, like, y'all are up there, like, in the pulpit begging for more men to step up and be leaders, and I've said that I'll do whatever you need. I don't need to be like up front. Like, I'll show up early and set up chairs. And they were like, well, you heard I was going to a devotional on Friday, and that is a concern to you? But it was so concerning, but you didn't say anything to me. Oh, okay, all right, well. So that was a big part of my exit. It wasn't the only piece, but clearly you don't. If you cared about me that much, so much so that you're concerned about me being a leader in the church, but not to address it with me, like,
right.
What do you really care about?
What stood out to you about that, Ron? Was it the fact that they weren't upfront about it, or the fact that they objected to you going to a separate Bible talk?
Honestly, it was more that they weren't upfront about it, because I think, like most people, I'm assuming here, if you have a problem with me, I prefer you say something to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can work something out. Like, and in that particular circumstance, I don't know what I would have said back then. I know what I would say now, which is, there's not a problem here. I think there's a problem, kick rocks. I don't know 100% sure what I would have said then. I do know that I was very much. One of the things I really appreciated about the ICOC was it was the first place I'd ever seen in my life where there were a majority of the congregation was, to me, doing their best to put their money where their mouth was, and do what the Bible said they should do. And to that point, I had seen so much blatant and superficial hypocrisy that this was a breath of fresh air to me. Now, the more profound, deep hypocrisy I hadn't really experienced or seen yet. And it was in Gainesville where I started to experience some of that. And it was just really, that was just hurtful. Like you're saying that you're concerned about me and my soul, but not concerned enough to say anything to me? What kind of concern is that?
Until you wanted to step up.
To me, it sounds like gossip, and it sounds like you picking and choosing who you want your leaders to be, and not necessarily choosing the people who are maybe like
best fit.
So that just kind of was just, to me, objectively wrong and hypocritical and irreconcilable.
That reminds me of how I felt when, every once in a while, things with me and Salsa will come up. Not enough to ever, for anybody ever say, hey, you just need to straight up stop. But I would hear through the grapevine, through some friends of mine, Trisha, a few of these guys. One of my roommates would tell me that some of the sisters in his ministry were concerned about me because they would see the pictures that I were in. Like, I would take pictures of everybody wherever I went. I'd take pictures at disciple stuff. I'd take pictures with folks at salsa stuff. So of course, at salsa events, not everybody's modestly dressed. So people are having problems with, me being in pictures with scantily clad women, but not saying anything directly to me. So my roommate, who was also good friends with Trisha, would tell me, like, it wasn't on him. It was more so the people who were talking to him, telling, hey, is Myron struggling? Is something going on? Because he's, dancing with these girls and taking pictures with these girls. And I'm like, these same people that know you, I know them and they know me. Why are they not coming to me? Why are they? I mean, if they don't have my number, they know somebody who has my number. They can, just like you said, I would prefer that be brought directly to me and not through some hearsay, he say, she say, whatever fits with that, right? At the time, I kind of was like, okay, I get it. Maybe I understand that, they just like, we don't want to directly tell the sister, hey, you're whatever they're showing, maybe to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they don't want to have that same conversation. But still, it's the fact that, dang, why am I hearing this from my roommate when you know me? You can come to me. Like, I don't get this.
Well, I mean, you do get it. We all sitting here, we know what it is. I mean, we heard time and time again, the scriptures hit over our head. What was it like in Matthew, where it talks about if you have a problem with your brother, you go to your brother and talk to him directly.
That is my next video.
Then you bring another person with you.
It's going down.
And you're supposed to bring another person with you. And so, like, I won't speak for everybody here. I could point to, like, it says right here, and not even in black and white, in red and white. Like, for all
those Jesus words, that's the only one I'm listening to for all them people.
Yeah. So this is what you're supposed to do, and you're gonna sit here and feign concern, but not actually like try to have a relationship with me, and in a relationship with somebody, you actually like sit with them. So he's like, you know what? Like, this is not what I thought it was, and you are not who I thought you were. And,
that's I think that's the really interesting part in all of this. To go back to that cult word, where some people use it, they think it applies to the church, and some people don't. And regardless of where people stand, it's like either it's a cult or it's just like anywhere else in the world. It's just like a regular place. And I don't know which one of those things is worse, because it wasn't advertised as any other place in the world, right? It's advertised as something different, something special, something above. And then come to find out that it's just like anywhere else. It's like that's I think that's why a lot of people leave too, for those reasons as well, where it's just like, man, it's just like any other job that I've had, any other church that I've been to, any other type of relationship that I've had. So there's
just like the world,
regular.
but y'all say we're supposed to be different from the world. Why am I here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, I'm inclined to think it's the latter. I mean, what place, whether we're talking about a fast food restaurant or we're talking about a church, what place is going to say we're just like everybody else? Every organization is going to say that we're different, and this is why you should patronize us. Again, whether we're talking about fast food, a church, a consulting firm, or whatever, people are going to hold themselves up to be different.
True.
One of the things that I said in the last episode that I was invited to with Myron, that was said to me when I was studying the Bible in the ICOC, that to this day I do agree with, and I think fits this conversation perfectly. The guy that was leading the study said, if you ever find the perfect church, don't join it, because you'll ruin it.
Because you're going to make it imperfect.
Well, I mean, the implication being that God's perfect church is full of imperfect people. And you can show me a church without gossip, and I will show you a non-church. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about the ICOC or Presbyterian, Mormon. It doesn't matter. Like I have never been to a place, a job, a church, anywhere that doesn't, where there are people that see each other regularly and there isn't gossip. So I do think there's a piece of that's the human condition.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it okay. It just means that it's that much more hurtful when you talk about how bad it is on the regular and then violate that. So like at the job, people don't talk about how bad gossip is in staff meetings every time. But on Sundays, there's a scripture that talks about gossip. They're gonna go in on it. And
so they still do it.
Yeah, but they still do it. So I don't know. It's just another one of those things where it is hard for me to figure out what to do with.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, as someone who, I agree, by the way, I think with the overall premise. I mean, as someone who stands 10 toes down, the ICOC is a cult, and cults are a very specific thing, versus other things. That the difference with the ICOC, because I did a video on, the big promises that they make, because that is like what Aldo was saying. To your point about the fast food chain or the business that says, of course, we're better than the competition. I think though the difference with the ICOC is that they said that like if you go to Church's Chicken versus Popeyes, Church's isn't like, but if you eat at Popeyes, you're going to hell, like you're evil, like your life you'll never be anything, like your life is, like that's where for me that defining line comes in, where there's this line you cross where it's like, okay, that's fine, our church is great, our church, a lot of churches do think they're the ones doing it right. I mean, cult or not, quote unquote, or denomination, regardless. You have different denominations who think our version of Christianity is the way, right, versus the others. But when a group like that, when the church says, but if you don't belong to our church, you're not saved. It's like, that's where you get into cult territory. Like, okay, and the experts have already delineated, like, kind of what makes something a cult. And that's one of the things that really I learned after leaving and going through the research on that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I should be able to go to another church and not lose my relationship with God. Like, I'm not unsaved because I don't go to this church anymore. And that's where people use the word cult, because, it's that in-group, out-group thing. It's that the things we joke about, but these are mechanisms of control. And for me, I always define it as a cult isn't what you believe in. It's a dynamic of the group. It's how a group operates. So the ICOC is a church. I mean, it's a church. They have the same beliefs as other churches, just like, other churches that are cults out there. But it's when, it's when it becomes, these things like, if you're not part of us, you're not the chosen anymore. The ICUC said we are the kingdom of God on earth. They sold us on that. Like, this is the kingdom. This is the land of milk and honey. This is it. This is the kingdom. It's almost magical. And it was this dream. We used to sing this song, Men Who Dream. Our souls are like the desert, and I'm sitting there like,
I'm still, I'm not gonna lie.
I was so gone. So like the desert. It was like this feeling.
How come we didn't begin this meeting with that song? That's what I want to know.
Next time.
Next time. Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, but it wasn't just like what for me, like when I came in, they didn't say you're joining the church. They said you are joining the modern day movement of God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is you're part of the movement. Like, it wasn't, come join our church. It was like you're part of the elite. I at the height of my, devotion, like, I really did feel like I was part of like the I don't know what the is it the Super Friends or the universe, of superheroes, like the league, Justice League. I felt like we were like, the special forces of people that were doing something that was making Christianity great again, and making.
Oh, no, stop right there. Stop right there. No, she didn't say that.
That's what it was. We were making Christianity great again. Like, that was.
You want this fellowship from the podcast?
If they had made hats, I'd be wearing a stinking hat talking about, because it comes out of the restoration movement. So that was the whole idea, is that they're going to make Christianity great. Because and you talked about it in your interview, which was a good interview. When you talked about, really, it seemed like that's one of the things that appealed to you in the beginning, was you saw this blatant hypocrisy, right? And that's how I saw it. The cultiness, the devotionist, it came across as integrity to me. Like, I thought they're really just living it, because they're like, the Bible's the standard, and we're not lukewarm, we're hot for God. We're sold out. So I don't know, trigger anybody with those words, but it's like, that's what they gave. And and I'm like 18 going, oh my gosh, like, they're really about that life. And so for me, I am one of those people, because for many reasons, but that's one of them, because it surviving that experience, and that's the nuance of it, because we all have different variations of different experiences. So like you said, you never experienced certain things, and you were able to say no and be an extrovert, where within the whole cult dynamic, there's all these different, some people are able to do certain things, but it like, you couldn't be every member. Like you couldn't be every member. There's gonna be rebels, just like the Matrix, right? There's always an anomaly. There's always going to be anomalies that are going to move and navigate in that system of control. But then you have the police, the sheriff. I'm the sheriff. You're the rebel. Aldo, Trisha. Everybody.
Don't do it. I thought he was about to say I was the percolator.
I was trying.
No, you are.
I was trying to, but you got the percolator
this time. So
Trisha's going on prayer walks, and Myron is going on marathon dates, and he and
all within the first month.
Mm-hmm.
He's just having to kill the first month. Like, he's just doing the most, and somehow it all is happening in the same thing, but it's still like this overarching. Like, for me, I see like because I look at some people and I go, like, I know people like you in the church, like, and not in a bad way, but I remember they would give people like you to me to disciple, because they'd say, This is this.
Boy.
They would give me the hard cases. You will be considered a hard case. Like someone is rebellious. Trish, you too. They would totally be like,
they intentionally gave me the people who are supposed to keep you in line. They're like, oh, this person will help. I think I broke one person too.
Yeah, because I love the term Myron used, company man. I think you're the one. Like I stole that. I said I got to steal that. Like,
hey, it's yours.
That was, that is a perfect description of it. Like I have to admit, as much as I hate to say it, I was a company woman, and so there's all these different characters in this. Yeah. I mean, I guess the upside to that, because I was that way, I saw a lot. Yeah. And I'm able to articulate it in a certain way because of that.
Hell,
my biggest takeaway is make Christianity great again.
Maca.
That's what I heard too.
I love that Maca.
Yeah. Helen, you did trigger me with a word earlier when you said stinking. It just made me think of all the words that we don't ever say before or after the ICOC, but we only said during. I did this yesterday. So Naya came to pick me up from the train station. So we're driving home, and there's some people who was just driving crazy, right? And I kind of went on a rant about how, like, you could do that if you're just walking and somebody's like not paying attention and getting in your way. You could choose to just not move and let them bump into you and everything's fine. You can't do that on the road. And my dumb ass said, if that happens, if I don't humble out and let the person go ahead and get in my path, I might die. And I'm like, did I just say humble out? And she was like, what was that? And I was like, you've never heard that phrase before, have you? She's like, nope. I'm like, damn it. It's an ICOC phrase. I'm sorry. Nobody says that outside of that. And
Good
sure
times.
enough, my wife has never heard of that term, humble
Phrase
out.
fits.
What you say, Ron?
I said if the phrase fits.
Yeah, true.
Myron, I'm wondering if the next time you do one of these, if you can get 10 people on board, so we can play Mafia and figure out who the percolator is. I would love to participate in that. I think that would be fun.
Now I'm 100% convinced that Aldo's the percolator, because when you play Mafia, a part of what you do is you have to convince. You go on trial, and you have to convince everyone that you're not the Mafia if you get put on trial. And he's already trying to convince us that he's not the Mafia, trying to recruit.
Hey, listen. I think that would be a fun episode of just playing that and figuring it out. And we replace Mafia with Percolator. Listen.
I'm trying to figure out how we would do it over Zoom, because part of Mafia
but it sounds like a conversational kind of game, though. No,
it is.
And
The crazy thing about Mafia is there's lying involved. So we got Christians, we got disciples. Excuse me,
they must have struggled with that game.
There's certain ones who did. There's certain ones who refused to play it because they felt like, so their conscience was hurt because, I have to lie. And then there's some people who was like, these certain people shouldn't play Mafia because the worst of them comes out while they're playing Mafia.
I've legit seen Mafia like ruin relationships.
It's like Uno and that draw 4.
Man.
Family don't exist in Uno, bruh.
Hey, nope. Listen. Let's not talk about Uno. There's a lot of disagreements happening in the world.
Reverse.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's listen. There's people who Uno send out a tweet.
I don't care
the
what
official.
Uno said.
You see, that's it, and then people have that response.
I don't care what Uno says.
So
why are we playing the game?
This is what I've done. I have printed out my house rules for Uno.
Oh God.
Okay.
So that's a smart idea.
When you come to my house, this
That's
is how
fair.
Uno is being played. So that way we won't spend time arguing over whether or not you can stack, whether or not you can do trains, whether or not you can do whatever.
Trains? What's a train?
So like if you put down a 2 and I have a 3, a 4, and a 5, I can put those down.
Why?
Oh wow.
Because it's fun.
Isn't that part of the game?
No. Are they of the same color?
No.
Okay, that's not Uno anymore. now you playing. Now you playing.
So we gotta.
Now you playing. Now you playing DS. Now you playing DS.
So we gotta.
What
we
are
got
we
a
talking
purist
about?
on our hands.
Has anybody? I'm a pure. I'm gonna stop.
Well, but that's true when you play games with disciples. Like it would go left. It would always.
And somebody's getting discipled.
Yeah.
Somebody's too competitive. Somebody's super prideful.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
But you brought up a good point, Myron, the joke about the stinking thing. Because I'm listening to myself say it, like, why did I say that word? Like, it's like I'm out of body, like listening to myself.
Yeah.
And it was just, I didn't even, it just kind of came out. And
I would wager to guess a part of it is the company. Like the church jokes that I made, I don't make those jokes at work.
Yeah,
I don't make those jokes when I go salsa dancing, but we are in a fraternity of people that know a language, and the ICOC has its own language, and we can use it with anybody else except current and former ICOC people. So I would posit that maybe you did that because you knew we would get it. Like, even if it was like on a subconscious level, like, so like that's like a bunch of the references that I've made. Like, I know y'all resonate with it to some degree, or at least a couple of y'all do. And so I wouldn't just say some of the things I'm saying to anybody who's just going to blink at me. I don't know if any of y'all seen Game of Thrones. I host this happy hour here in DC, and this was a few years ago before the pandemic, and there's a group of us at the happy hour that I was hosting, and we were talking about Game of Thrones, and there's a character in the show that has a line that she always says basically before she leaves the scene, and the line is, "For the night is dark and full of terrors." If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't watch the show, it doesn't matter why she says that. That's a thing that she says. And I just assumed, well, I was just talking about Game of Thrones with this group of people. Everybody watches the show, and there was a woman at the event that was getting ready to leave. And as she was leaving, it was dark out, and I was saying, "Oh, okay, all right, thanks for coming. I'm the host, so I make sure I talk to everybody before they leave. So thanks for coming. Be safe. For the night is dark and full of terrors." And she looked at me like,
"Is that a threat?"
I said, and I saw the look of concern on her face. I was like, "Do you watch Game of Thrones?" And she said, "No." And I was like, "There's no saving this. She is convinced that I'm a psychopath murderer." I'm gonna find her. Stop. There's no coming back from that. If you've never heard that line before, you don't make the connection to the show. That's the creepiest thing anybody's ever said to you, and it's time to go. And I don't blame her. Like,
did you clear it up? Did you clear it up? Did you tell her what it was, or you just left it at that?
I tried briefly. She was already like literally walking like out of the bar.
Faster at that point.
I was like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you watched the show. That's a Game of Thrones reference." I tried to say it real quick because she was leaving, but I was like, "Yeah, I don't expect her to come back," and she did not come back, and I don't blame her. But my point was, I could say those things to a Game of Thrones fan, and even if it's midnight, I say it to them, and they're like, "Ha ha, funny." But
I see what you did there.
I say it to anybody else, and they're like, "Yo, what's going on here?" I'm gonna back away slowly.
Yeah, I think on top of it being like an inside thing, some of it was also replacement words. Because I'm pretty sure if you're saying stinking, you really mean the F word, or the word Joker was basically the replacement for the N word for some of us brothers and among the brothers. So somebody said that Joker over there, that over there.
Well, it brings up the question for me because it made me think about cursing, right? And I was curious about how other people's experiences. Like, was it hard? Was it a transition to curse again after leaving the church if your language was squeaky clean? Because I think I feel like it was a knee-jerk reaction, like you said, Ron. Like it's subconsciously, but in addition to that, I think sometimes I'll have these moments where, I use swear words. Like I've done it since I left the church, but it took me a long time to get comfortable. And in this moment, in a knee-jerk reaction, it was like, okay, yeah, I just defaulted, because I remember sometimes having conversations with people from the church. Sometimes I don't know where people stand on that issue.
Yeah.
So if they're, because I have a friend that's ex-ICOC, I used the F-bomb, and it was a thing for her. Like, it was like, oh, like, you feel like it's like,
touching her pearls and all that.
Yeah, and she's still very, very Christian in the sense of, not that you can't, I kind of understand you could be Christian still and be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's part of it too. I mean, did anyone else have to transition? Because I think in moments I still struggle with that.
Parenthood did it for me, because I will say this: in my 5 years of being a parent, I've cursed more than my previous years combined, and it was always never in front of the kids, but it was always usually because of the kids. 99% of the time was because somebody wouldn't stay asleep.
Amen.
Right? You done did all that work, rocking them to sleep. You got to get them to sleep, and then you got to still hold them for another 5 minutes to make sure they're actually gone. And then you got to carefully, like your hand. I'm not exaggerating. It's like you're handling nitroglycerin. Because you make one wrong move, they finna wake up. And then at that point, it's like an old video game, like an old Nintendo game. We ain't got no continues, no save points, no memory card. You are starting all the way back to fuck over if you mess up.
He just dropped the curse right there. Here we go. He's
exactly.
living in the moment.
Exactly. So I'm trying. So either so I try to put him down or put her down, and everything's fine. And you creep away. And for people who aren't parents yet, if you make sure you got a clear path out of that bedroom, because you don't want all your hard work.
Nothing.
Right. You don't want all your hard work to go out the window because you trip or you hit something to stub your toe, or you stepped on something squeaky and now they.
Oh man.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly my reaction. Or the moment where they sleep all night, right? They sleep. I'm still up. I'm doing my thing downstairs. I'm getting my me time in. The moment I have the thought to stop what I'm doing and get into bed, somewhere between then and when I actually get into bed, they wake up. It causes a disturbance in the force, and they wake up. It's happened way too many times for me to not think that it's a thing. And in that moment, and so between that and the fact that, the whole do not use the Lord's name in vain thing, when I finally realized they're talking about, not cursing, but not using the Lord's name to do effed up stuff, like be racist and sexist and all of that.
Okay.
Now what, I was already on the dark side with the language at that point. But once I realized, I'm like, that's what that really means. Okay. I'm gonna keep it in check when I need to. When I don't, I ain't worried about it no more. I'm done.
I have an inconsistent relationship with I say inconsistent, but I'm very choosy about when I decide to use that kind of language or not use that kind of language. And part of it is kind of similar to what you said earlier, Helen. Like, I have people in my circle of influence that it bothers them quite a bit. And I do believe in a created habit is really hard to break, for better or for worse. Yeah. Whether it's the habit of going to the gym or it's the habit of addiction, it's really hard to break a habit. And so I try to be very intentional about when and where I use those words.
Person for a purpose.
I cannot sit up here and say that I don't. But like most places, I don't. Especially if I don't know where the other people that I'm with are at, because I feel like it's something, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice to me to not say those words.
Yeah.
So if it bothers you, then there are some things that if it bothers you, like, kick rocks.
Not sorry, not sorry.
Like if you like, Black Lives Matter. If that bothers you, kick rocks. Like that's a hill I'll die on. Now, if you don't understand it, I am one of those people. I feel I have the patience to talk you through what that means and why it matters. Because some people just didn't grow up in a context where they understand it. And unfortunate as that is, I get it. And I will, if you genuinely are willing to listen, I will explain it to you. But not everybody. Some people get it and they don't care, and they're not down with it. And so, that's something I don't have patience for. But in terms of, like my mom's whole generation, those aunts and uncles, they don't curse. So when I'm around them, family time, Thanksgiving, I don't even get close to thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I respect my elders, and that's how they run their house. And I want to be respectful of the environment and their space. And not just family, but other places too. When you're at work, like, I don't want to get in the habit of saying the wrong thing and then get too familiar or comfortable.
Yeah.
Say something in front of somebody who isn't okay with that. And then the next thing you know, I'm in HR. So I find that it's better for me to most of the time just avoid it. And in very specific circumstances with people that I know that are cool with it, in those situations, particularly if my football team is losing,
Yeah.
I hear it then, but that's me. So maybe a little inconsistent, but I'm trying to be intentional about not using it too much.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I very rarely curse. If I do, usually it's because there's a phrasing. And it's like, all right, you try to, because like, that's what we all did in the church. We would try to change the phrasing, and just sometimes it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
So times like that, like, I'll use it. Usually if there's another situation where I'm really upset, I'll apologize first before I curse, just because, and it's been years and years of conditioning. I'd say that honestly, the only time I actually do curse is I'm talking to my husband, and I just let it fly. During that, just to clarify, I'm not cursing at him because I'm angry at him. It's just it becomes intertwined in conversation and just in regular sentences. So he's probably the only person I freely curse with. Everyone else, I'm like, I can't say it because it feels wrong somehow to say it so flippantly now around like humans.
I found it easier when I got into the church. I found it easier to stop cursing. It wasn't difficult at all when I got into the church, because I would curse all the time. And then when I left the church, it took me a long time after leaving before even uttering a curse. I think close to a year, I think. And I remember when I said it to somebody, they were like, clutch the pearls. But I'm cool with it now. They were like, what? But I'm cool with it now. I don't think I curse in front of everybody. I think like everybody else here said, there's certain groups that are okay with it, certain groups are not okay with it. And but yeah, I'm okay with it. Like if somebody curses around me, I'm not bothered by it whatsoever. So it's one of those things. But I've always wondered why that was, because it took me a really long time after leaving before I got comfortable, even cursing to myself, right? Like just uttering the word to myself out of frustration. Not so much in conversation with other people, but just saying it to myself, like if something upset me. So yeah,
I totally. This came up a little bit earlier. Both I think Aldo and Myron mentioned this about the music. When I was at church, I did totally cut off listening to music with curse words in front of other people. But if they weren't there, there's just some music to me. Like there are legit some songs that like it is better if it's quote unquote clean. The first time I heard that the explicit version of Enrique Iglesias song, like what's the song? Tonight I'm Loving You. And then I heard the explicit version one night at a club, and I was like, oh no. Clean version.
There's an explicit version?
Oh, he does not say loving.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was
I wasn't expecting
Enrique.
that. I wasn't expecting him to say Enrique Iglesias. I thought he was going to say Method Man.
I know,
Red
right?
Man,
Exactly.
somebody.
Eminem, like somebody.
There are some artists
Enrique.
there are some artists where like they curse, and if you don't like cursing, you can't listen to that artist. Can't listen to a clean Eminem album. Can't do it.
Cannot. You
Don't buy the album if you want it clean. Tupac, don't get the album if you want it clean. Just don't do it.
You know what happened if you buy the, and I know this by experience, because there was a time where like my parents would buy, I could only buy the clean versions of stuff, and then I hear somebody else, one of my other friends who has the explicit version. I realize I'm missing 6 songs off the album. Eminem's first album, like, well, I think it was the Slim Shady LP. I bought the clean version.
Yeah.
They actually let several curse words, like he would say the S word, he would say the B word, but they would blank out Vicodin, they would blank out stab, they would blank out all these other inappropriate words that weren't cuss words. So I'm like, well, fuck it. If I'm gonna hear all the actual cuss words, but not hear this other stuff, and I don't even know what they're saying, I might as well just get the dirty version next time so I can get everything.
Explicit version. I never stopped listening to explicit music ever.
You know, it's crazy. One of the brothers I was close to my first year down there in Tallahassee, he was very much against listening to rap music. I mean, he was always trying to listen to either clean stuff or just not playing rap at all. But the one album he decides to borrow from me, Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001. I'm like, of all the albums you want to borrow from me and you don't like cursing and rap music, that's the one? I'm like, I get.
And what did he think? What did he think? Did he give you some feedback on the album?
I forget if he did, but I was just like, and I feel like he knew what he was getting into too, which made it worse. I'm like,
did he want to go into the dark side? He knew to come to you to that. Is that what's happening, Myron?
Might have been.
Was this in month 2 of your discipleship?
Yes. Yeah.
This was maybe just past the month, I think. just past the cutoff point.
Well, you know what? It makes me think, guys. I think I'm just thinking just now. It's maybe this is another tentacle of purity culture. That, with the language that just runs so deep, because I don't have a problem with other people cursing either, but I remember in the church it would set me off. Like it was like like a bomb would go off in my brain or something. It's like, I couldn't hear that. But then after leaving, it's cool, but it's just interesting. I just think that purity culture runs real deep in terms of, because of how it ran deeper than just saying a word. It was connected to so much more, I think. And that's why, because I was like Aldo, it took me years. It took me a long time to even cuss to myself. And then, because I got the same response, if I said a word, it's like clutch the pearls. It's like, oh my gosh, like, and I think that traumatized me a little, like seeing that, because it wasn't like I'm going to walk around like cussing 24/7 like a sailor or being particularly vulgar. Because to me, vulgar is different than swearing.
Yeah.
There's two, but there's so much morality put on it and all this stuff. It's just interesting. It's interesting hearing other people's experiences with it.
Yeah, I just realized that we are about to bump up against, or at least everybody in EST, we're about to run up against midnight. I didn't realize we were going so long. Time flies when you're having fun and talking about ex-cult stuff. Is there anything that anybody wants to get off their chest, promote, plug before we wrap up here? Closing remarks, benediction, all of that good stuff.
Benediction.
May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. That was a prayer at the end of every Baptist service I've ever went to.
I gotta check out one of these Baptist churches, man. This sounds like a good time.
It is. Bring your fan.
It was fun.
Bring your fan.
You can bring a fan.
Yes,
Gotta
the
be.
AC
Oh,
does
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Do not count on the AC working. If the AC works,
there
you
ever
are lucky.
AC in
You gotta
there
have a
anyway?
fan.
We have windows open.
There we go. There we
So
go.
I guess I'm gonna go to one up north in the winter.
Yeah,
That's
do
just
that.
what I'm gonna do.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's got to be in a Baptist charter to not have a working air conditioner.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you got fans, at least half of them don't work.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I will plug something. So relatively recently, I didn't know this was a thing until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Forgive me for multitasking. I'm gonna try to find a link and I'll put it in the chat, and then Myron, you can potentially throw it up later. So
Yeah.
I've really gotten into storytelling, and that is exactly what it sounds like. Have you ever heard of The Moth? It's on NPR.
Yes. Yes.
There are more organizations than just NPR that do storytelling events, and I do a few a year, and I'm doing one on Thanksgiving weekend is the next one that I'm doing. I'm doing another one in the spring of next year, but the upcoming one is going to be on the 26th of November. I believe that's the Saturday. And I'll provide the link for that event. So it's people telling stories about the true stories about things that have happened in their life, and mine is about how I got my Spanish nickname. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but and you have to listen to the story to find out what it is. But it does involve me almost dying in very dramatic, Fast and Furious fashion. I can tell you that.
Huh.
Nice.
Cliffhanger.
Sounds like a good way to end Thanksgiving.
There you go.
Thankful for still being here.
Exactly.
It was almost a mushroom cloud of me.
Speaking of the Moth, big shout out to my lovely wife Naya, who I'm pretty sure is going to come on the channel at some point, who is sponsoring this video because I'm using her Zoom account right now, so we don't have to do the
Thank you,
every
Naya.
40 minutes cut off and do a new video. But yeah, she actually she used to go to the Moth meetings a lot pre-COVID. She's gone to a couple since then, but more so before COVID. She actually was featured on, I think, the same program you're talking about, Ron. She actually got on stage and it got recorded talking about how not fun her first pregnancy was. Yeah, so that it was pretty hilarious. Everybody ate it up, but yeah.
Well, the link is about to be in the chat. So the name of this storytelling group is called Better Said Than Done, and it will be there will be a virtual version as well. So those of you outside the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you can tune in virtually if you are available that evening.
Yes, not the Department of Motor Vehicle. Yes.
Yeah, I make sure for people outside the
Other
area,
one.
I clarify that.
The other one.
No, man, I just think it's cool to have these types of conversations pertaining to the experience. I think people have experienced this thing in different ways. Some people have experienced it for a longer duration or shorter duration, and for some people it sticks with them longer than others. But nonetheless, I think it's healthy to reflect. I think it's healthy to laugh. I think it's healthy to disagree. I think it's healthy to agree, and I think it's just healthy to talk about it. So
Yeah.
and it could be fun. It could be fun. So thanks for putting this together, Myron.
No problem. I appreciate y'all inspiring the idea in the first place. Happenstance. Our conversation we had that one night. We're like, hold up, it's on a Friday night, on a time that we would normally have Devo.
Wait. What happened?
Because remember, you and Helen were doing y'all's recording the episode.
Oh, that's right.
And
And
it was
then I called you or something like that.
No, I think I sent you a picture of my. I thought I'd gotten rid of all my encouragement date cards, and I found an old stash that I hadn't thrown away yet.
Yes, that's
So
right.
I sent a picture to y'all, and then that's when
Helen, do you remember that?
That's what set the whole
yes.
thing off.
Helen, that was an eventful night, Helen, because
It really
I
was.
got a text and then a phone call from somebody else. No, listen. I don't know if you want to put this part in the podcast, Myron, but
We still rolling. Let's
all right.
go.
Well, I got and Helen is a witness to this. So Helen, please Helen will confirm.
You can tell from her facial expressions, she's recalling it all.
But I got a text from Myron showing that picture that he said, and then I got a phone call.
What?
And I had him on speaker, and I put the phone up to my I put the phone up to the screen. I was like, Helen, and then we had him on speaker.
And he didn't call to disciple you.
That really happens.
He might have. It might have been a subversive way to disciple.
Wow.
It might have been. So yes, that I remember that. I remember that night. I remember that night. How could I forget? I apologize, Myron. I apologize.
All right, Percolator. I see your subtle cult flex.
Damn, man. Talk about a literal blast from the past. Jeez.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was weird. I was like, yo, I can't talk right now. I'm recording, man. I'm gonna holler at you later, B.
That's what he said, ladies and gentlemen. That is verbatim.
Verbatim.
That's what he said.
The real Percolator.
Yes.
Probably. The original.
Killing
No
all
doubt.
the
I was
townspeople.
gonna say the OG.
Yes.
No doubt. Good times.
Anybody else? Y'all good?
Well, I want to say thanks. Thanks. Yeah. I'm glad you made this happen. I appreciate you putting this on, and yeah, it's a great, like Aldo said, getting together. This is a very special thing, where no one else really understands that, gets it. But I appreciate being invited. But it's, so I'm thankful to be here for. I guess I could plug my channel.
Go ahead. Plug yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No, for those who are unfamiliar, I have a YouTube channel called Losing My Religion here on YouTube, as I said. So I will give a link to the host, and you can share it as well. But I talk about the ICOC experiences. I call them ICOC shenanigans, and I do them every Friday, except today, but I'll get that out Sunday. But, and I talk about just the general life after cult. So anyone's interested, feel free to stop by and check it out.
So on top of extra plugging both Helen's channel, Losing My Religion, and ICOC Shenanigans, and also all those podcasts, the Reclamation podcast. Also, you got the Fatherhood project. Is that right? Fatherhood podcast.
Yeah, man. We so the Fatherhood project is just conversations I'm having with dads of different backgrounds, accents, nationalities, fathering experience, and just conversations where people talk about how their experience as sons has really influenced their experience as fathers. And that's a there's some interesting conversations there, I think. And then another podcast that my wife and I are doing is called Jamming on the One, right?
Yes.
If you ever watched The Cosby Show, you know what it is. But where my wife and I just talk about 80 songs. We talk about our favorite jams. There's some jams that we leave out, but there's a lot of jams we leave in, and I find it. Look, I have a fun time recording it. All right, so I don't know if people enjoy listening to it, but I have a fun time recording it, and we just talk really about our favorite songs, and we go at it year by year. Excuse me. And then there's some jams we leave out, and then some of the jams we talk about fun facts. Like for example, we just did a revisit of 1980, 1981. And of course, we did Another One Bites the Dust, right? Like, who doesn't love that jam? You know what I'm saying? And come to find out that Another One Bites the Dust was originally used in Rocky 3. But they never got permission to use it. So then last minute, Sylvester Stallone hired Survivor and said, yo, can y'all write me a song for this movie? And Eye of the Tiger was born.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And so we talk about stuff like that and then move on to the next song. So it's a good time.
Amen. Look at me doing stuff I used to do with the ICOC, say amen to everything, damn it.
It happened
I still do
again.
that. I just
Yeah.
accept it. We're both like,
Yeah,
amen.
there we go.
You just own it at this point.
Hey,
Oh,
man,
okay.
I'm doing a staff meeting at my secular job. Somebody says we are canceling the staff meeting for this Friday. I will end the team's chat. Amen. That's my response.
I've done it in my salsa classes before.
Not even saying it. He's typing it out.
Yeah.
He's taking it next level.
Both. And
That's dope.
So on top of everybody's podcast here, I want to. I'm not getting paid to mention these. These are just some things I found interesting lately. A couple of podcasts I've been listening to. Helen, when you mentioned purity culture earlier, there's an episode of this podcast called "Straight White American Jesus." It's speaking against what you would think they're talking about, what you think they'd be promoting, basically. And one of the episodes I first listened to was about how Christian nationalism is the original purity culture. It was really good. Like whatever you're thinking of, that's it. But yeah, it was really good. But yeah, they're speaking against all the. For those of y'all listening, if this bothers y'all, just like Ron said, I may not say kick rocks, but not sorry if this bothers y'all. But yeah, we not MAGA over here. We not Christian nationalists over here. We hashtag BLM over here. So if you gotta go, it's okay. Deuces.
Mhm.
But yeah, speaking against, people who think that the face of America is, you got to be white, you got to be straight, you got to be, all that kind of stuff. The other one, Leaving Eden podcast. This one is about a young lady who left the International Fundamentalist Baptist Movement. They call IBF. IFB. They call them fundies for short. So it was really, I'm mentioning them because it's really interesting. They also mentioned the whole Baptists don't have sex standing up because they don't want to be seen dancing. That whole joke. I'd heard that joke before, but hearing their podcast, it reminded me they said that same joke again. But
do they also talk about the lack of air conditioning?
No, because I think okay, not to make things racial here, but normally when you talk about a Baptist church where the AC ain't working, it's usually some black folks.
yeah, it's the Black Baptist.
Yeah, white Baptists, I'm pretty sure they keep that thing running well.
I didn't know until my mid-20s that there were white Baptists. I'm dead serious. I'm not joking. You look confused, but I didn't realize. I was like, white people are Presbyterian, Methodist, and Catholic. And black people are AME, Baptist, and Nation of Islam.
Well, it's because, not to be mean, because I'm thinking about the rhythm that occurs in a Baptist church.
Okay, it's
And
funny.
there's the confusion.
It's funny you mentioned rhythm.
I'm not sure. I don't know what you mean.
Clapping on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
No, but what is the rhythm of clapping on beat have to do with the?
You saying black people got rhythm?
Of course they do. I don't understand the connection. I'm sorry. I'm just confused.
Yo,
I think she's equating baptism with Baptist with rhythm.
Yeah, well,
Yo.
I mean, some of us have.
it's funny I'll say that. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna really close this out here. So one of the episodes was about rock and roll being the devil's music, right? So they mentioned how in the IFB you weren't allowed to listen to any rock. Yes, because on the surface it's supposed to be the devil's music, which it really isn't. But anyway, so the host went on to define any rock music, and I don't know if how true this actually is, but we're gonna roll with it for a second. She described rock music being defined as any music where the snare or the clap is on 2 and 4. I'm like, I didn't really think that was the definition of rock. However, so at first I'm like, just like you said, Trisha, I'm like, yep, I can think of the fact that when my wife Naya was at her old church, straight up white church. I mean, white is in Caucasian and white is in everybody had white hair because they was old as hell. It don't matter how hard she tried, because she used to lead the songs there. No matter how hard she tried to keep everybody on 2 and 4, they would insist on 1 and 3, no matter how hard she led them otherwise. This this the rabbit hole here is that any music that had the 2 or 4 rhythm came from Africa, and then they trace it back to the whole curse of Ham, because remember that at the end of Noah's Ark, one of his sons, Ham, was the one who, I guess, he saw him naked and made fun of him or whatever like that. So Noah put that curse on him. So out of the 3 brothers, the other 2, their descendants went on to inhabit Europe and Asia. Ham's descendants went on to populate Africa. So because of that, so basically I learned that's the one scripture that a lot of racists use to justify slavery and racism, because nothing good comes out of Africa because of that curse. Meanwhile, even the worst curses in the Bible only went down a few generations. So yeah, there's a lot of other good stuff from that podcast. But I learned, I always knew that there were some certain scriptures in the Bible that races were used to justify things, but to hear it actually explained, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, the other thing about that podcast though was just really interesting hearing somebody else's perspective of a different type of cult or high control group. Their different brand of purity culture, their brand of dating culture. They didn't have the for instance, what is it? They didn't have the arranged marriages like some of us had, but they had the whole courting thing. So you shouldn't be dating somebody if you don't see yourself you don't see yourself marrying the person. It's completely opposite of what we did. So, but yeah, it was just different. Interesting seeing a different perspective of being under a whole bunch of control, being mentally enslaved, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
And what's the name of this podcast again?
So that's Leaving Eden. I'm pulling it up again now. Yeah, Leaving Eden podcast, and it has an apple in the middle of the cover image. And the other one is Straight White American Jesus.
All right. Sounds like a good time.
Yep. That is it, y'all. Thank y'all so much for
cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for being here.
Thank you for doing this.
No problem. It's a great time being able to just talk to other people who we get each other. We do.
It was stinking flat out awesome.
Stop it.
He said that. He said that with conviction.
We got after this. We got to go out. We got to crank it. We got to crank the ministry. Okay.
Oh, crank! God,
how many people are we going to baptize into the ex-ICOC faith?
How many guests are we bringing next time? That's the question. That we could play Mafia. That's all I want to do. That's all that counts right now.
I love that you.
We already got 5. We just need 5 more.
If each of us bring one, we got 10.
Although
you win, I am there.
You wrap things up like a really good comedian who knows how to like go back and reach back and pull all the good points that he hit, and just but
I mean, listen, but y'all started with the Mafia. I was really trying to figure out. I'm gonna play with my kids tomorrow. Like, I don't care what they're doing. I don't care.
They'll know.
Although there's nothing you can do that's gonna stop us from ending this podcast with the percolator.
Can you play that song? Can you get the rights to play that song? Can we do that?
For the outro? Maybe a cover?
Yo,
can you the new outro anytime Aldo's on?
And making you
that might as well be the music as I like play my logo and thanks for watching.
Yo, listen. I think you need to make that happen, B.
This is happening. It's done.
Yo, man, it's on. I mean, it's it's chef's kiss to the Anti-Devo, the whole anti. It's like the anti-kingdom song. So instead of men who dream, it's men who percolate.
And then after I stop recording, we finna have the after party, and we will get rebuked in the morning.
Percolate.
And on that note, we out. Thank y'all.
Yeah, it's late. Y'all. Okay.
Thank y'all for putting up with us for about 2.5 hours or whatever. And I'll see y'all in the next video.